As Lin Fan drove, he chatted with the beautiful air stewardess. The atmosphere was very relaxed. During this time, the two of them introduced themselves to each other. Lin Fan knew that the beautiful air stewardess was called Qiu Ziqian. Just as Qiu Ziqian had said, she lived a few kilometers away. 10 minutes later, Lin Fan arrived at a slightly old neighborhood. The environment of the neighborhood was not good, but Qiu Ziqian's place was clean and tidy, giving off the warm feeling of home. "This is the apartment unit I'm sharing with another flight attendant," Qiu Ziqian explained. "She flew overseas today and should be back in a few days." Just then she saw the red wine on the table and asked, "Do you want to drink some wine?" Lin Fan nodded his head indifferently. With a soft sound, a stream of red wine flowed into the wine glass. Lin Fan picked up the wine glass and gently swirled it. Then he put it to his nose and sniffed it. Finally, he poured it into his mouth. His movements were gentle and elegant. He was like a noble prince, looking extremely charming. The drinking gentleman had infinite charm. Originally, Qiu Ziqian had wanted to use the wine to boost her courage. However, at this moment, she had completely fallen for him. Ding, charming aura triggered. Qiu Ziqian finally could not control her emotions and threw herself into Lin Fan's arms. The sun was high up in the sky, the birds spread their wings and the grass rustled. In the blink of an eye it was dusk. Qiu Ziqian wiped the tears of happiness from the corner of her eyes and climbed out of bed with some difficulty. "Are you all right?" Lin Fan asked. "Don't you need to rest for a while?" "I'm fine," Qiu Ziqian said softly. "You must be hungry, I'll let you taste my cooking." "You can cook," Lin Fan was shocked. It should be known that young people nowadays, especially girls, almost never went into the kitchen. As for beautiful girls like Qiu Ziqian, they generally did not know how to cook. "A meal outside can't compare to a meal at home," Qiu Ziqian said. "In addition to conquer a man's heart, you should first conquer his stomach. Of course, I have to practice it well." When Lin Fan heard that, he could not help but smile. A wave of smoke and oil rose. In just half an hour, a number of sumptuous dishes were served to Lin Fan. "It tastes really good," Lin Fan praised. After Qiu Ziqian heard this, she was also very happy. "If you like it, eat more." "All right, then I won't stand on ceremony," Lin Fan said. Lin Fan ate 2 full bowls of rice and finished all 5 dishes. His face was full of satisfaction. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, there was a loud noise outside the community. Lin Fan walked out of the window and looked at the excavator in the distance. He frowned. "The roads have been under construction recently, so it's a little noisy," Qiu Ziqian replied. "The environment here is too bad. Let me help you move to another place," Lin Fan said. "You're not thinking of letting me stay at your place, are you?" Qiu Ziqian laughed. "I'm studying at Jiangbei University. I'm staying in a dormitory now," Lin Fan said. Qiu Ziqian's face was filled with surprise. She had never expected that the top tycoon, who was dressed in branded clothes, wore a Vacheron Constantin Tour de L'Isle, and drove a Lamborghini, would be a student. "Doesn't that mean I'm ripping you off?" Qiu Ziqian asked, puzzled. Lin Fan smiled and touched his nose, feeling helpless. Then Lin Fan took out his phone and dialed manager Han Tian's number. In the meeting room of Lianjia. Han Tian sat in the head seat, took out a stack of documents, and explained the company's policies and market situation in detail. The staff all listened very carefully and took notes from time to time. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment Han Tian's phone rang. When she saw the caller ID, her expression trembled for a moment, which was a rare sight. Han Tian almost reflexively answered the phone. "Hello, Mr. Lin," Han Tian said softly. "Hello, Manager Han. I'm calling to ask if you have any recommendations for a house with a better environment," Lin Fan said directly. Han Tian only thought for a moment before saying, "If you don't have specific areas in mind, I recommend Yiqi City and Kaiohu City. These 2 residential areas have the best greenery and property management in Jiangbei. They're both in excellent locations. Within a 10-kilometer radius there are parks, large businesses, hospitals, and everything you can think of. Transportation is also very convenient." In addition, Yiki City and Kayaohu City both have large flats that are more than 150 square meters. It's very comfortable to live in. If it was an ordinary person asking, Han Tian naturally would not recommend Yiki City or Kayaohu City, let alone a unit that was 150 square meters. One had to know that the environment and location of Yiki City and Kayaohu City were indeed impeccable. However, the price was also very high. It was just that Lin Fan was different. He owned an entire building in Washington Palace, so he naturally would not care about the price. Obviously, it was just as Han Tian had expected. Lin Fan nodded his head calmly and said, "Do you have any houses for sale in these two districts?" "Yes, I do," Han Tian said with certainty. "You should be busy, right? Why don't you send someone over to show me the house?" Lin Fan said. Han Tian was the sales manager, but it was most suitable for her to show the house. However, Lin Fan did not want to waste other people's time. Han Tian replied, "No, I'm not busy. I've been idle for half a day. We'll meet in Yiki City later. What do you think?" "All right," Lin Fan said. Han Tian hung up the phone and got up. "You guys can summarize it first." After he finished speaking, he quickly walked out of the meeting room. Only the employees were left in the meeting room, dumbfounded. "Manager Han, didn't you just say that this meeting is very important? Is it really fine for you to put down all your work now? As for concluding and summarizing on our own, we don't even know what a policy document is. How are we supposed to summarize it?" Eh? Han Tian had no idea what the employees were thinking. After she left the store, she drove a red BMW 530i and headed straight to Yiki City. When Han Tian arrived at her destination, Lin Fan had not yet arrived. She took the opportunity to take out her makeup mirror, lipstick, and foundation to touch up her makeup in the car. When the sound of an engine came from a distance, Han Tian noticed a cool Lamborghini driving over. Hence, she quickly got out of the car. After the Lamborghini stopped, Lin Fan opened the car door and said, "Manager Han, did you wait for a long time?" Han Tian shook her head and smiled, "No. I just got here." The next moment Han Tian's entire body froze. A beautiful woman walked out of the Lamborghini's passenger seat. Furthermore, this beauty even walked up and held Lin Fan's arm in an extremely intimate manner. Lin Fan looked at the grand entrance of Yiki City and nodded his head slightly. He had a good first impression of it. "Manager Han, can you bring us in to take a look?" Lin Fan asked. Oh, okay," Han Tian said. One had to admit that Yiki City was indeed one of the best residential areas in Jiangbei. When the security guard saw them from afar, he took the initiative to walk over and asked in a very humble tone. Then someone stood next to Lin Fan's Lamborghini. Obviously, it was to prevent people from touching it. Yiki City implemented a strict human-vehicle separation system, so no car could be seen in the community. After Lin Fan and the others walked into Yiki City, they looked around. There was not a single piece of trash. The ground was extremely clean. There were only trees, grass, and fresh flowers that emitted a fragrant scent. This was a very good environment. Not long after, Lin Fan and the rest arrived at the house on the 25th floor. It was a 178 square meter flat with a modern and luxurious interior. Standing in front of the tall floor-to-ceiling window, not only could one have a panoramic view of the community's beautiful scenery, but one could also feel the afterglow of the evening. It was extremely pleasant. "Do you like this house?" Lin Fan asked. Qiu Ziqian nodded lightly. In fact, when she walked into the house, her beautiful eyes immediately lit up. In her eyes, this was not a house at all but a castle that belonged to her dream. Lin Fan said, "That's good, I'll take this then." After saying that, Lin Fan took out his bank card. Even though Han Tian had already experienced Lin Fan's straightforward personality, she could not help but be stunned at this moment. It was a 178 square meter house, and he had only taken a casual look around. He was going to pay for it directly. Was he not too forthright? After a long time, Han Tian took the bank card in a daze and said, "This house is 178 square meters and the unit price is 46,000 yuan per square meter. Mr. Lin, are you prepared to pay in full or? The full amount, Lin Fan said directly. Han Tian was not too surprised by this result. She took out the contract from her bag and said, Mr. Lin, you can take a look at the sales contract first before signing it. Obviously, when Han Tian left Lianjia, she was fully prepared. Ziqian, come and sign it, Lin Fan said. Q Ziqian could not help but be stunned. Q Ziqian knew that Lin Fan owned a Lamborghini and a Vacheron Constantin Tour de L'Isle. He was definitely a super tycoon. She thought that when Lin Fan said that he was going to move her to a new house, he meant that he would rent one for her. She was surprised enough that he was buying a new house. Q Ziqian never thought that Lin Fan would just give her the house. She heard it very clearly just now. The house was 178 square meters in total, with each square meter costing 46,000 yuan. In other words, this was a house worth more than 8 million yuan. He was giving it to her just like that. Even though Q Ziqian had been a flight attendant for 2 years and had seen a lot of things, she was extremely shocked at this moment. Yes, this house is for you, Lin Fan nodded. Q Ziqian looked at Lin Fan quietly. He did not seem to be joking or hesitating at all. She took a deep breath and said seriously, thank you. She picked up the pen and signed her name on the contract. Han Tian, who was at the side, looked at the contract, and her face was full of envy. She muttered in her heart, when will I be able to meet someone who treats me so well? After that, Han Tian picked up Lin Fan's bank card and swiped it on the card reader that she had prepared. Beep. At the same time, a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding, you've spent 8.188 million yuan. Would you like to use the 10x return card? Yes, Lin Fan thought to himself. You've successfully used the 10x return card and received 81.88 million yuan. Lin Fan's phone vibrated. Merchant Bank would like to remind you to deposit 8,188,000 yuan. At this point, Lin Fan's funds had reached 156 million yuan. His assets had exceeded 100 million for the first time. Even though Lin Fan could earn 1.4 million yuan a day by breathing, walking, and sleeping, now that he suddenly received so much money, he could not help but smile. Ding, you've completed a hidden mission and earned over 100 million yuan. You've received 5 silver red packets. When Lin Fan heard this, the joy on his face grew. He had completed a hidden mission before, so he knew how hard it was to get a silver red packet. Han Tian explained a few more things about the procedures and passed the keys to Lin Fan. She left after that. Lin Fan passed the keys to Q Ziqian and smiled. Ziqian, from now on, you're the owner of this house. Q Ziqian looked at the keys in front of her, her delicate body trembling. Her wish was to own a house of her own in Jiangbei. Now it had come true. Moreover, she had such a perfect house. I never thought that I'd get such a good house, thank you, darling. After Q Ziqian finished speaking, she immediately hugged Lin Fan and kissed him with her sexy lips. After a long time, the two of them slowly separated. Lin Fan looked at the time. I won't be accompanying you today, I need to go back to school tonight. All right, Q Ziqian responded. Are you staying here today or are you going back to your rented place? Lin Fan asked. I still have to pack up, so I'll go back for today, Q Ziqian said. Then I'll drop you off, Lin Fan said. The two of them walked out hand in hand. Lin Fan dropped Q Ziqian off at the entrance of the community and headed toward Jiangbei University. Just as Q Ziqian turned around, a sweet-looking woman who was also wearing an air stewardess uniform appeared before her. Huang Ling, weren't you supposed to fly overseas today? Q Ziqian asked in surprise. Why did you come back so early? Obviously, this air stewardess was Q Ziqian's roommate. The weather is too bad, so the flight was cancelled, Huang Ling said. After a pause, she continued, let's not talk about this for now. Did you just get out of a Lamborghini? Ziqian, don't tell me you. Q Ziqian and Huang Ling had a very good relationship. Otherwise, they would not have rented a place together. They would talk about some private topics together. Huang Ling knew that Q Ziqian had never been against certain things. Yes, Q Ziqian nodded. How much does he pay you every month? Huang Ling asked with a sigh. He didn't give me any money, Qiu Ziqian replied. What, he didn't give you any money but you, Huang Ling called out. He gave me a house, Qiu Ziqian said. It's 178 square meters and it's in Yiqi City. Huang Ling's mouth turned into an O shape. When she was bored, Huang Ling often looked at houses and knew how expensive the houses in Yiqi City were. A 178 square meter house in Yiqi City, it would cost at least 5 to 6 million, right? He gave it to Qiu Ziqian just like that. Did he write your name? Huang Ling asked hurriedly. The contract is in my hand, Qiu Ziqian said with a nod. Ring ring. At that moment Qiu Ziqian's phone vibrated. It was a message from Lin Fan. Lin Fan said, if you don't want to be a flight attendant then quit, I'll transfer some money to you, let me know if it's not enough. Then, Qiu Ziqian received a message stating that she had received $1 million. Qiu Ziqian, thank you darling. After Qiu Ziqian replied to the message, she waved her phone and said, he's giving me money now. What, $1 million? Huang Ling's mouth was wide open again. She had never heard of anyone giving a house that was worth millions and $1 million in cash. Ziqian, is he lacking another woman? Huang Ling asked desperately. Qiu Ziqian looked at her pitiful appearance and laughed so hard that her delicate body trembled. After Lin Fan returned to Jiangbei University, he went straight to room 305 of the training building. At this moment, the twins, Xia Bing and Xia Zhu, were seriously designing a model in front of the computers. When they caught sight of Lin Fan, their eyes glowed with excitement. Then they each took out a bottle of energy drink from their backpacks and handed them to Lin Fan. Thank you, Lin Fan said. He casually opened the 2 bottles of energy drinks and took a sip from both. When Xia Bing and Xia Zhu saw this, the joy on their faces intensified and a pair of cute little dimples appeared indistinctly. At this moment Professor Zhang Yang walked in. When he saw Lin Fan, he immediately shouted, Lin Fan, you're finally here. When Lin Fan heard this, he could not help but rub his nose. Last Saturday, Zhang Yang had been sending him messages, asking him to come early for the training. However, on Saturday, Xinyu Hotel auctioned off a 100-year-old ginseng. The 100-year-old ginseng could help Lin Tao's illness. Of course, Lin Fan had to go. Lin Fan did not return to Jiangbei until Sunday night. On Monday, it was his girlfriend Qin Yuxuan's birthday. Naturally, Lin Fan had to go to Madu to celebrate. After all that, Lin Fan finally had the time to come to the training room. Zhang Yang said helplessly, originally, I wanted to use these few days to train you, however, the competition is tomorrow. If I train you now, it'll affect your mental state for tomorrow's competition. Zhang Yang sighed and said, I'll talk about the rules again. The competition will last for 72 hours. The difficulty and intensity are very high. Especially for Lin Fan, he needs to calculate, write his thesis and defend his thesis. It's a heavy task. But you must not panic or be nervous, just be steady. When Zhang Yang first saw the mathematical models of Lin Fan, Xia Bing and Xia Zhu, he was extremely excited. He immediately felt that Jiangbei University had a chance to win the national prize or even the Higher Education Cup this year. However, now Zhang Yang had no confidence at all. As a professor, Zhang Yang knew very well that students who were busy with other things would have their results affected. He just hoped that Lin Fan and the rest could get the provincial award. The next day, the weather was clear. The bright morning sun rose into the sky like a giant dragon. Many students from the mathematics and computer science departments of Jiangbei University were walking toward the spacious lecture theater. Today, no, for the next 3 days, they would be participating in the difficult national mathematical modeling competition. Counselor Sun Yaedong stood in the corridor far away and silently watched this scene. At this time, a middle-aged teacher in his 30s or 40s said, Teacher Sun, you got so many students to sign up for the competition, but it's useless if you only have quantity but not quality. That's not necessarily true, Sun Yaedong said. Maybe a few of them will win the provincial prize. The middle-aged teacher shook his head with a smile. Clearly, he did not take these words to heart. In the lecture hall, Zhang Jinbao looked at the tables that were 2 meters away from each other. He sighed and said, "It's over now, I can't copy even if I want to." On the side, the students from the computer science and mathematics departments were speechless. "So you're participating in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition with the intention of plagiarism?" Zhang Jinbao looked at Song Yi, who was sitting not far away, and muttered, "There's someone to keep me company anyway, so it's fine." After he finished speaking, Zhang Jinbao opened the bottle of Coke and took a big gulp, his face full of enjoyment. At this time, Song Yi also looked around. When he saw Zhang Jinbao, he was obviously relieved. The poor students could accompany together and would also rank bottom together. Lin Fan sat on the chair calmly, looking extremely relaxed. It was like he was not here to participate in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition, but to drink tea. "Zia Bing, Zia Zhu, don't be nervous, it's just a competition, relax," Lin Fan said. Zia Bing and Zia Zhu nodded repeatedly. If they were participating in the competition with someone else, they would be as relaxed as Lin Fan. However, they were on the same team as Lin Fan for the competition. They could not help but feel nervous. That was because Zia Bing and Zia Zhu had decided in their hearts that they would definitely do their best for Lin Fan and not drag him down. Ding ding. At this moment, a crisp bell sound rang throughout the lecture hall. Then 3 professors, all over the age of 40, slowly walked in. Among them, the professor with white sideburns said, "Other than team members who are allowed to discuss in low voices, no one else is allowed to whisper to each other. Violators will be disqualified. The National Mathematical Modeling Competition begins now. Everyone please look in front of you." As the old professor finished speaking, 3 questions appeared on the projector in the lecture hall and on the computers in front of everyone. 1. Design a house. 2. Design a drainage system. 3. Design a parking lot. Please choose one of the 3 questions to answer. After seeing these 3 questions, the students were all dumbfounded. Design a house, a drainage system, a parking lot. Should these not be things that the architectural department should do? This required drawing, designing, and so on, which was indeed a little complicated. However, what did this have to do with the National Mathematical Modeling Competition? Was the competition not about mathematical calculations? Which part of this involved mathematics? The students were stunned for a moment, and after a while they began to discuss in low voices. "Which question should we choose?" a short student from the computer science department asked. "The parking lot, it seems to be simpler," a mathematics student of medium build said hesitantly. Zhang Jinbao denied it and said, "Of course, it's the drainage system, we can just draw a few ditches." The few of them looked at each other for a while before hesitantly saying, "Then let's design the drainage system." Lin Fan casually glanced at the 3 questions and immediately had an idea in his mind. "Zia Bing, Zia Zhu, which question do you want to do?" Lin Fan asked. Zia Bing and Zia Zhu did not say anything, they just looked at Lin Fan quietly. It was obvious that they were asking him to choose the question. "All right, I'll choose then," Lin Fan nodded. He touched his chin and muttered, "Many cities are prone to water accumulation during heavy rain. It's troublesome to design a drainage system, however, it's indeed useful. Let's choose the second question, which is to design a drainage system." Zia Bing and Zia Zhu did not have any reaction at all and just nodded repeatedly. At this moment, a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. "Ding, you've triggered a hidden mission, win the national prize in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Reward, 5 silver red packets." Lin Fan's lips curled up. 62. The match ends, the beautiful twins are shocked. Originally, Lin Fan had only planned to answer the question casually. At this moment, he decided to do it well. Lin Fan's pen flew as he quickly wrote down a series of complicated calculations on the white sheet of paper. Then he told the requirements and data to Zia Bing and Zia Zhu. Instantly, Lin Fan's team began to make a series of rhythmic clicking sounds. As time passed, the prototype of a drainage system gradually appeared on Zia Bing's and Zia Zhu's computers. Soon it was noon. Many people directly bought their meals to eat at the entrance of the lecture hall. After they finished eating in a hurry, they continued to solve the questions and compete. It could not be helped, the mathematical modeling workload was too heavy. If they did not hurry, they might not be able to complete the task within 3 days. However, it was completely different with Lin Fan. After eating lunch with Xia Bing and Xia Zhu, he leisurely returned to the empty dormitory and prepared to take an afternoon nap. At this moment his phone vibrated slightly. 12 p.m. The red packets appeared. Ding, congratulations, you've received 6 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you have received 20 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 3 yuan. Today, Lin Fan received a total of 25,009 yuan. Then he looked at the 818 red packets on the screen. These were the red packets he received after spending 8.188 million yuan on a house in Yiki City yesterday. Initially, Lin Fan had planned to collect 1,000 red packets and open them all at once. Now he was hesitating. Forget it, let's open them, he muttered. Ding, congratulations, you've received 3,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 2 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've gained professional swimming experience. With excellent swimming skills, you can display extraordinary charm in the water. Ding, congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained professional-level aircraft piloting skills. Even if it's a plane, you can fly it easily. You'll be bursting with charm. From the 818 red packets, Lin Fan received a total of 780,922 yuan, professional swimming experience and professor-level aircraft piloting skills. He did not mind the 780,000 in cash, but he was very satisfied with the 2 new skills he had obtained. He mumbled, and the 5 silver-red packets, forget it, I'll wait for the National Mathematical Modeling Competition mission to be completed before opening all of them together. Lin Fan slept until 2 o'clock, then he slowly walked toward the lecture hall. At this moment, everyone in the lecture hall was doing their best to calculate and design. Lin Fan returned to his seat and sipped some tea. Then he bent over his desk and started writing. In the blink of an eye, the sky gradually darkened. The lecture hall was still brightly lit. The typing sounds were endless. It was obvious that many of them did not plan to go back to rest at night and would stay in the lecture hall all night. Lin Fan, on the other hand, went back to the dormitory with Xia Bing and Xia Zhu to rest when it was time. The second day was similar to the first day. When Lin Fan was about to go back to his dormitory to rest, the white-haired professor finally could not help but walk over and say, "Student, tomorrow is the last day of the competition. Aren't you going to hurry up and answer the question?" Yeah, Lin Fan nodded. Then he walked out of the lecture hall. The old professor was speechless. Yeah, but he left just like that. In the blink of an eye, it was the third day. The National Mathematical Modeling Competition was an open exam. As long as the students were not noisy in the classroom, did not talk to each other, and did not disturb the order of the competition, they could do anything. Hence, the invigilators' and professors' work was very simple. At this time, only one professor was sitting in the lecture hall, reading the newspaper out of boredom. The other 2 professors stood in the corridor, drinking tea and taking a breather. One of the younger professors asked, "Professor Zhao, do you know which student is the Lin Fan that Zhang Yang was talking about?" The old professor next to him pointed at Lin Fan, who was sitting in the middle of the lecture hall, and said, "There, that, Lin Fan." "It's him," the young professor said in surprise. "I noticed that he hasn't been in a hurry to answer the question these few days." "Not in a hurry, he eats and sleeps on time. He doesn't act like he's participating in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition at all. It's more like he's just taking a look at things here. He doesn't have the willingness to suffer at all," the old professor said in a disappointed tone. The old professor continued. "Even a normal professor wouldn't be able to solve these mathematical modeling problems in such a short time. After today's competition, I think he might not even be done with his thesis." The young professor nodded in agreement and said, "It's a pity." As the sun set, the competition finally came to an end. Ding ding! After an urgent ringing of the bell, the old professor stood on the podium and said, "Everyone, please rise, stop answering the questions, otherwise you'll be disqualified." Some people wanted to modify their model and polish their thesis. However, after hearing the old professor's words, they could only stand up reluctantly. Lin Fan saw that Xia Bing and Xia Zhu were still staring at the computer screens as if they were worried about the model. "Don't worry, it's already perfect," Lin Fan said. After Xia Bing and Xia Zhu heard this, it was as if they had received the best reward. Their two pretty faces were filled with joy and looked extremely sweet. Lin Fan looked at the two of them who were so happy that they could not even make a sound. His heart skipped a beat. He spent 20 million and bought 2 bottles of medical water from the system. "When you guys go back to the dormitory later, drink this." Xia Bing and Xia Zhu did not ask what it was. They hugged the medical water tightly in their arms like it was a treasure. Just like that, they returned to room 502 of the girls' dormitory with the medical water. After that, Xia Bing and Xia Zhu did not hesitate at all and directly opened the bottle of medical water and poured the contents into their mouths. In their hearts, as long as Lin Fan asked them to do something, they would definitely listen to him. At this moment, light footsteps could be heard from outside. An oval-faced roommate strolled in. After she saw Xia Bing and Xia Zhu, she asked, "You guys are back. How did the mathematical modeling competition go?" Then, without waiting for a reply, she sat on the bed and put on her headphones to listen to music. That was because she knew that Xia Bing and Xia X could not speak at all. She had just asked casually. Xia Bing and Xia Zhu still insisted on gesturing, indicating that they had done well in the competition. After a while, the oval-faced girl seemed to find it a little stuffy in the dormitory, so she got up and opened the window. Whoosh! Suddenly, a strong gust of wind mixed with pollen whistled in. Achoo! Xia Bing and Xia Zhu could not help but sneeze at the same time. Then they seemed to realize something and slowly opened their mouths. Ugh! Instantly, incomparably clear sounds came out from their throats. The two of them looked at each other, their faces filled with disbelief. Then, as if they had thought of something, their eyes fell on the medical water in their hands. "You can talk now, don't let him have it too easy." Jiangbei University, room 104 of the male dormitory. Song Yi, Zheng Jinbao, and Ma Zhong's eyes were all bloodshot, and they lay on the bed with tired faces. When they were in the lecture hall and saw the mathematical modeling competition questions, they were dumbfounded. If this were an individual competition, Song Yi and Zheng Jinbao would definitely have handed in blank papers. It was too difficult. Hence, it would be an easy choice for them. They would just choose not to do it. However, the mathematical modeling competition had them compete in groups of 3. Their teammates would not be allowed to hand in blank papers. Helplessly, Song Yi and Zheng Jinbao had to work with their teammates to complete the task. After spending a lot of time looking up information, they finally had a slight idea. For the past 3 days, almost all of them had not slept or rested. They had been calculating and designing madly, and they had almost collapsed from exhaustion. "Which question did your team choose?" Song Yi asked. "The third question, design a parking lot," Ma Zhong replied. "We also chose this question. My teammate said that this question was the easiest, but it was still so complicated," Song Yi said. As he said this, Song Yi seemed to think of the 3 days of crazy research and calculation. He could not help but sigh. Zheng Jinbao picked his nose and said, "The third question is the easiest. Shouldn't the second question about designing a drainage system be the easiest?" "The second question is the most difficult one. The drainage system involves many aspects such as terrain, pressure, soil quality, materials, and so on," said Ma Zhong. "If it's simple, there wouldn't be so many cities in our country that face issues with flooding. Once it rains, the roads in the cities will all be flooded." Zheng Jinbao blinked his small eyes and suddenly felt that it seemed to make some sense. In addition, Ma Zhong was one of the top students in the class. Generally speaking, he would not make a mistake. Zheng Jinbao could not help but think of his two teammates' performance over the past 3 days. They kept saying that the question was very difficult. Moreover, they had even asked several times whether they should change the question. However, he rejected them by saying that the other questions were more difficult. If they found out that designing the drainage system was really the most difficult question out of them all, would he hit himself? When Zheng Jinbao thought of this, he could not help but wrap his small quilt tightly around him. "Brother Lin Fan, which question did you choose?" Ma Zhong asked. "I chose the same as Jinbao, the second question," Lin Fan said. Originally, Ma Zhong wanted to ask if Lin Fan did not really work on any questions for the past 3 days. After all, he ate and slept normally. However, after hearing Lin Fan's words, Ma Zhong did not ask any further. In his opinion, the reason why Lin Fan did not try to solve the questions was that he thought that the questions were too difficult, so he chose to give up. When Zheng Jinbao heard Lin Fan's reply, he wrapped his blanket even tighter around himself. The second question was indeed very difficult. Obviously, Zheng Jinbao's thoughts were similar to Ma Zhong. Ring ring ring. At that moment the phone in Lin Fan's pocket rang. He looked at the screen and was surprised. That was because he realized that it was a call from Zia Bing via WeChat. Lin Fan's heart skipped a beat as he pressed the answer button. The phone was very quiet. In fact, Lin Fan could faintly hear 2 hurried breathing sounds. After a while, Lin Fan took the initiative to speak. "Zia Bing, Zia Zhu, you two should be able to speak now, right?" "Yes, yes." 2 very clear and sweet voices came from the phone. They sounded like the sound of spring water flowing and were extremely pleasant to the ear. Lin Fan's face revealed a look of enjoyment as he praised, "What nice voices." After a while, weak voices came from the phone. Thank you." "You're welcome, you must be tired from the competition, right?" Lin Fan smiled. "Have a good rest." "No, we're not tired." Pleasant voices quickly came from the phone again. You too have a good rest." After hanging up the phone, Zia Bing and Zia Zhu were still hugging the phone tightly. Their entire faces were like ripe tomatoes, red. After a long time, they made another WeChat call. Not long after, there was a light-hearted voice on the phone. "Girls, why did you call me? Are you going to do Morse code?" the beautiful young lady Yan said with a smile. When Yan saw the incoming call, she was a little surprised. She could not understand why Zia Bing and Zia Zhu would call her. In the past, there had never been such a situation. Therefore, she made a casual joke. "Eh? Mom, Zia Bing and Zia Zhu said. F*CK, F*CK, the F*CK. The person on the phone was stunned for a moment. After that, extremely shocked yells were heard. Then the person on the phone shouted again, "You guys can talk now." That's right," Zia Bing and Zia Zhu said. "Good," Yan exclaimed happily. "Ha ha ha, your voices are very nice, as expected of my daughters, no little sisters. Remember to call me sister, don't call me mom. My sisters are so sensible, they called me the moment they could speak." "Not bad," said Yan, pleased. "We called Lin Fan first," Zia Bing and Zia Zhu said. The beautiful young lady Yan was speechless. Fangsheng District, Qing City. The middle-aged woman looked at her daughter's carefully dressed appearance and nodded repeatedly. "Sikin is so beautiful," she continued. "We can't let that Wang Xiaodong marry her so easily." The middle-aged man beside her nodded in agreement. "Don't worry, I've already talked to third brother Big Ming and the others, they'll block the gate." Third brother is now the security captain of Yinshan Mall and Big Ming is a detective. With them blocking the door, Wang Xiaodong won't be able to marry Sikin so easily. The middle-aged woman thought for a moment and said, "Third brother and the others aren't enough. Sikin, don't you have a few best friends? Call all of them over. The more people blocking the door, the better." "Do we have to call so many people over?" Gong Sikin said hesitantly. "Of course," the middle-aged woman immediately replied. "Wang Xiaodong has no money and no power. If he marries you so easily, won't he think you're cheap?" "Actually, Xiaodong's not bad, he's quite motivated," Gong Sikin said. Although Gong Sikin often reprimanded Wang Xiaodong, he was the husband she had chosen, and she did not want to be belittled too much. The middle-aged woman sighed and said, "Silly daughter, this isn't anything difficult. We're just letting Wang Xiaodong understand how hard it is to marry you. That way, in the future, he'll cherish you even more. In addition, we're only arranging for some people to block the gate. If Wang Xiaodong is really capable, he can just ask some powerful people to open the gate and fetch the bride. If he can't do that, then he should spend more time to self-reflect. Hearing her mother's words, Gong Sikin pondered for a moment before nodding. Shopping at Yinshan Mall again to buy a necklace. The next day the sun was shining brightly. Since it was Saturday, there were no classes. In addition, the mathematical modeling competition ended yesterday. Therefore, Ma Zhang, Shang Jinbao, and Song Yi were still lying in bed without any movement. They did not have any intention of getting up. As for Lin Fan, he picked up the phone beside his pillow and took a look. An eye-catching text message notification had already appeared on the screen. Notice from China Merchant Bank, 141,200 yuan was deposited into your account at 12 p.m. For the past 3 days, the red packets that Lin Fan opened at noon were all cash. In addition to the cash earned from breathing, walking, and sleeping, Lin Fan earned a total of 4.4 million in 3 days. Even though the purchase of 2 bottles of medical water cost 20 million. Lin Fan still had 142.6 million yuan. After Lin Fan had his breakfast, he drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class and headed straight to Qing City. Last week, he had promised Wang Xiaodong that he would attend the wedding if he had time. Wang Xiaodong was Lin Fan's deskmate in junior high. Back then, Lin Fan's family was poor, and he could not even afford an exercise book or a ballpoint pen. Wang Xiaodong often gave Lin Fan some, and Lin Fan remembered this. Now Wang Xiaodong was getting married. Lin Fan did not have much to do this weekend. Furthermore, he could visit his parents and sister when he returned to Qing City. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After about an hour, Lin Fan arrived home. Ever since Lin Tao and Dai Weixu had taken the medical water, their physical conditions had improved significantly. It was as if they had become 10 years younger and were full of energy. At noon, they even ate 2 big bowls of rice each. In the afternoon, Lin Fan accompanied them to watch television and chat. He would laugh from time to time. He was extremely relaxed. Creak, creak. At this moment, the door was pushed open. Lin Xiaoya walked in with her school bag. She looked at Lin Fan and was surprised. "Brother, when did you come back?" After she finished speaking, she immediately pounced into Lin Fan's embrace. "I've only been back for a while." Lin Fan pinched Lin Xiaoyao's face. "You've slimmed down, hurry up and eat more." Lin Xiaoyao shouted, "Dad, Mom, look, he's teasing me again." "Your brother is right, you need to eat more," Dai Weixu said. Lin Fan looked at Lin Xiaoyao's defeated expression and could not help but want to laugh. "Why are you so early today? Don't you have to go to the evening self-study session?" Lin Fan understood the situation at Qing City's #1 high school. Generally speaking, there was no need for evening self-study sessions on Sundays. "It's the monthly test today," Lin Xiaoyao said, "so I won't be attending the evening self-study session." Lin Fan nodded his head. "Brother, take me out again today," Lin Xiaoyao said excitedly. "Sure, where do you want to go?" Lin Fan asked. "Yin Mountain Shopping Center," Lin Xiaoyao said directly. Ever since Lin Xiaoyao found out that Lin Fan was the biggest shareholder of Yinshan Mall, she had been looking forward to shopping with him again. That was because, in her eyes, she was not shopping at all but shopping at her own home. Unfortunately, Lin Fan had not returned for the past few days. He did come back last week but left after lunch. This time he had finally returned, so Lin Xiaoyao naturally had to seize the opportunity. Lin Fan pinched Lin Xiaoyao's face and smiled. "All right, let's go to Yinshan Mall then." When Lin Xiaoyao got into the Mercedes-Benz G-Class, her bright eyes could not help but look around. She had seen this Mercedes-Benz G-Class last time, but she did not have the chance to ride in it. This time she was going to enjoy it. At the traffic light, Lin Xiaoyao looked at the car waiting at the side and said excitedly, "Brother, our car is so tall." Lin Fan just smiled and nodded. Boom! When the green light came on, Lin Fan stepped on the accelerator and sped forward. Soon they arrived at Yinshan Mall. Nothing unexpected happened during this shopping trip, and Lin Xiaoyao quickly bought a few pieces of clothing. At that moment, Lin Fan stopped in his tracks and looked at a store not far away. Eh? Lin Fan's heart skipped a beat as he walked over. "Big brother, why are we going to a jewelry store?" Lin Xiaoyao asked. "Let's see if there's anything suitable for you and our parents. I also need to buy a wedding gift for my classmate tomorrow," Lin Fan said. "All right." Lin Xiaoyao's beautiful eyes immediately lit up when she heard that he was going to buy her something. However, when she leaned against the glass counter and saw the shocking prices, she shouted again, "Brother, the things here are so expensive. Let's go to another store." Lin Xiaoyao had shopped in jewelry stores with her friends before, so she had some understanding of the prices. However, the price of the jewelry in front of her was several times higher than that of other shops, maybe even 10 times higher. Lin Xiaoyao knew that her brother had a sports car and a Mercedes-Benz and was very rich. He had also said that he could let her spend his money. However, Lin Xiaoyao was definitely not someone who would spend money recklessly. At this moment, a shop assistant of medium build smiled and said, "Every piece of jewelry from Bulgari is made from the best materials and then designed by a famous designer. So the price is indeed more expensive than the average jewelry. Eh? But our style is fashionable, cutting edge, and the quality is excellent. In this aspect, we're far superior to ordinary jewelry." Lin Fan pointed at a necklace in a glass cabinet not far away and said, "Lil Yao, what do you think of this necklace?" Lin Xiaoyao looked in the direction he was pointing. She only saw. The necklace was exquisite and novel, especially the crescent-shaped pendant that was blooming with a brilliant light. It made her eyes light up. The shop assistant took out the necklace and introduced it. "This necklace is called Moon Princess. It's the work of famous designer John Ryan from Japan. The chain is made of 99 platinum. It's dynamic, fashionable, and extremely strong. It doesn't break easily. The pendant of the necklace looks like a beautiful princess sitting on the moon from a distance. This piece is full of dreamy colors. At the same time, the princess is surrounded by 4 diamonds which symbolize the lucky 4-leaf clover, meaning that it'll bring the princess endless good luck." As the sales assistant introduced the item to them and Lin Xiaoyao observed the pendant up close, her eyes shone even brighter. Whether it was the shape, the symbol, or the meaning, she loved this necklace so much. It could almost be said to be perfect. Naturally, Lin Fan saw everything. He smiled and nodded. "Okay, then wrap this necklace up." Then Lin Fan asked the shop assistant to take out a jade bracelet, a lighter embedded with gems, and a pair of pure gold lovebirds. He took out a bank card. Beep. With a soft sound, the payment was successful. Lin Fan saw that Lin Xiaoya was still staring at the necklace and could not help but smile. "Put it on and let me see." "All right," Lin Xiaoya said excitedly. She looked at Moon Princess, which she was wearing around her neck, and her eyes lit up. Her pretty face was full of excitement. Lin Xiaoyao took a selfie with her phone and asked, "How much is this necklace?" 188,888 yuan, the sales assistant said. Crash. Lin Xiaoyao did not hold her phone properly, and it fell to the ground. 65 gifts for mom and dad, professional go skills. Lin Xiaoyao's throat was dry and she asked, "What did you just say? How much is it?" The Moon Princess is 188,888 yuan. The Sapphire Lighter is 48,888 yuan. The Jade Bracelet is 46,666 yuan. And the Pure Gold Pair of Lovebirds is 36,666 yuan. The shop assistant immediately listed out all the prices. Lin Xiaoyao did not hear the prices after that. However, she heard the price of her necklace clearly. 188,888 yuan. Lin Xiaoyao had never seen so much money in her life. If they were all exchanged for 100 yuan bills, they would probably pile up to the height of her head. In other words, she was not wearing a necklace at all. Instead, she was carrying around a nearly endless stack of cash. Lin Xiaoyao quickly took off the necklace and said, "Brother, it's too expensive, I don't want it." Lin Fan looked at how anxious she was and smiled. "You're too late, I've already paid." Huh, what do we do now? As Lin Xiaoyao spoke, she could not help but glance at the sales assistant. It was obvious that she was asking if she could return it. Lin Fan pinched Lin Xiaoyao's face and smiled. All right, there's no need to have it returned, you can wear it with ease. Have you forgotten that the entire Yinshan Mall belongs to me? Getting my family some gifts don't mean anything. Lin Xiaoyao gradually gave up on the idea of returning it and said, Brother, if I wear this outside, will it get snatched? After she finished speaking, she did not forget to look around. It was as if someone would jump out and snatch the necklace at any time. Lin Fan smiled, then why don't you put it on and stuff it into your clothes? Yes, yes, Lin Xiaoyao put it on again and held it tightly in her arms. Then Lin Fan and Lin Xiaoyao slowly walked toward the car park. At that moment, Gong Leki, the security guard who had just been appointed, saw Lin Fan when he was patrolling the mall. At first glance, Gong Leki felt that he looked familiar. Then he took out his mobile phone and compared the photos. The next moment, Gong Leki's eyes widened, and he immediately straightened his back like a patrolling soldier saluting his officer with his eyes. It was no wonder he was acting like this. That was because the previous head of security was fired because of Lin Fan. That was why Gong Leki had the chance to become the new security captain. That was a bloody lesson. Gong Leki did not want to be dismissed because of this. Gong Leki only relaxed after Lin Fan was far away. He hesitated for a moment but still made a call. Zhou Chengjun was the general manager of Yinshan Mall in Qing City. At this moment, he was outside discussing a collaboration with someone. Ring ring ring. At this moment, the phone in Zhou Chengjun's pocket rang. Zhou Chengjun frowned slightly. He hated to be disturbed when he was working. Zhou Chengjun first turned to the middle-aged man sitting opposite him and said, I'm sorry, I'll have to take this call. After pressing the answer button, he said in a slightly displeased tone, Captain Gong, what's the matter? Gong Leki could also tell that Zhou Chengjun was not very happy, so he did not dare to beat about the bush and said, Manager Zhou, I think I saw that young Mr. Lin from last time. He came to our Yinshan Mall to shop again. The young Mr. Lin. Zhou Chengjun was slightly puzzled at first. Then with a whoosh he stood up. Is it that Mr. Lin from the week before last? Zhou Chengjun asked anxiously. Yes it is, Gong Leki said. Zhou Chengjun said excitedly, Great, good call, I'll be right over. After hanging up the phone, Zhou Chengjun quickly said to the middle-aged man opposite him, I'm sorry, I have something urgent to deal with at the mall. We'll talk about the cooperation in detail next time. Although cooperation was important, how could it be more important than meeting Mr. Lin? Even if it was just a simple meeting. After Zhou Chengjun finished speaking, he quickly walked outside. Only the middle-aged man sitting opposite him was left mumbling, Mr. Lin, who in Qing City can make Zhou Chengjun so concerned about him? Could it be someone from another place? Zhou Chengjun was not far from Yinshan Mall. Unfortunately, his speed was still a beat slower than Lin Fan's. Mr. Lin just drove off in his Mercedes-Benz G-Class car, Gong Leki said. I see, Zhou Chengjun said helplessly. Then he patted Gong Leki's shoulder and said, Captain Gong, you've done well. If you see Mr. Lin again, let me know immediately. Will do, Gong Leki said excitedly. After Lin Fan returned home, he gave the sapphire lighter and bracelet to his parents. Lin Tao's entire face almost bloomed into a flower as he said, This lighter is so nice, I've never seen such a nice lighter before. It's so comfortable to hold. Of course, Dad, Lin Xiaoyao said, your lighter costs 48,888 yuan. What, how much is it? Lin Tao exclaimed in surprise. 48,888? Dai Weixu, who was playing with the bracelet, was also extremely surprised. Then what about my bracelet? 46,666, Lin Xiaoyao said. Lil Fan, why did you buy us such expensive things? Dai Weixu chided. It won't be good if I fall and break it. Quickly take it back and return it. Dai Weixu had been thrifty her entire life. When she got married, she only bought a bronze ring. As for necklaces, she did not own a single one. Now she suddenly had a bracelet that was worth tens of thousands of yuan. She could not accept it. I've already bought it, so how can I return it? Lin Fan smiled and said, this is just a small item. Mom, don't worry and wear it well. In the future, I'll buy you better ones. Lin Tao touched his lighter and said, the child is filial to us, so we should happily accept his gifts. It was obvious that he really liked this lighter. However, Lin Tao quickly noticed that Dai Weixu was glaring at him. Therefore, he coughed twice and said, Lil Fan, we know that you're very successful now, but don't waste your money. Dai Weixu said, we'd definitely be happier if you spent this money on girls. Lil Fan, you're doing well in your career now. When are you going to bring a girl back for us to see? Lin Fan could not help but think of Qin Yuxuan, Zia Bing, Zia Zhu, Qiu Kikian, and the others. There will be opportunities in the future, he said after a long while. The time spent together as a family would always pass very quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was late at night. Lin Fan lay on his bed and looked at his phone screen. You've spent 320,000 yuan and received 32 red packets. Do you want to collect all of them? This was what he had gotten after buying the jewelry and accessories today. Yes. Ding, congratulations, you've received 10 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 50,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained professional Go skills. Lin Fan received a total of 173,200 yuan from the 32 red packets. He had spent 320,000 yuan and got back 170,000 yuan. It was almost a 50% discount, not bad. Of course, Lin Fan did not mind at all. He immediately placed his attention on his professional Go skills. Professional Go skills, you have Go skills that far exceed that of ordinary people, and you can defeat your opponent with ingenious and exquisite skills. You can display a special charm. Lin Fan touched his chin and muttered, Go, that's quite interesting. The next day, Lin Fan drove his Mercedes-Benz G-Class to the Yi family's neighborhood early in the morning. At this time, there were 6 shiny Mercedes-Benz cars parked neatly at the entrance of the community. Obviously, these were all wedding cars. Today, Wang Xiaodong was wearing a black suit and his hair was neatly combed. He looked at the Mercedes wedding car in front of him and nodded slightly. When he turned around, he saw a Mercedes-Benz driving over from a distance. Then the window of the Mercedes-Benz slowly rolled down. Lin Fan smiled and said, Xiaodong, I'm not late, am I? Congratulations on your wedding. After saying that, Lin Fan got out of the car and handed over the pure gold lovebirds and a red packet. Wang Xiaodong was a little surprised and said, No, you're not late, we're preparing to pick up the bride, thank you. In fact, when Wang Xiaodong met Lin Fan last week, he roughly told him the wedding time and address. After that, they did not talk anymore. Wang Xiaodong and Lin Fan only had a good relationship in junior high. After that, they did not keep in touch. The last time they suddenly met, he asked Lin Fan to attend the wedding and bring gifts. Wang Xiaodong was embarrassed. Even if Lin Fan did not come, Wang Xiaodong would definitely not have blamed him. Lin Fan naturally understood Wang Xiaodong's thoughts. He patted Wang Xiaodong's shoulder and smiled, as expected of a groom, he's almost as handsome as me. Wang Xiaodong burst out laughing after hearing Lin Fan's words. The atmosphere instantly became much more relaxed. They seemed to have returned to their middle school days. At this moment, a man holding flowers, ribbons, and other things strode over. When he saw Lin Fan's Mercedes-Benz G-Class car, his eyes lit up. F***CK, a Mercedes-Benz G-Class, you're using this car as one of the wedding cars, isn't that too cool? It's not this one, Wang Xiaodong quickly explained. Just use my car, it's just sitting here, Lin Fan said. What can I? Wang Xiaodong hesitated. Of course you can, Lin Fan said. Lin Fan, thank you, Wang Xiaodong said. In fact, Wang Xiaodong's eyes had lit up when he first saw the Mercedes-Benz G-Class car. The Mercedes-Benz G-Class car was one of his favorite cars. If he could use this car as his wedding car, he would naturally be very happy. However, Wang Xiaodong was already embarrassed that Lin Fan, a friend who had not been in contact with him for many years, was able to attend the wedding. He really could not make the request to ask Lin Fan to lend him his car for a day. "What's there to thank me for?" Lin Fan smiled. Very quickly, Lin Fan's Mercedes-Benz G-Class car was decorated. When the auspicious time arrived, Lin Fan acted as the driver and drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class toward the bride's location. Although it was a Sunday, there were still many cars on the road. While Lin Fan was waiting at the traffic light, Zhou Chengjun's Mercedes-Benz E300 was parked at the side. Zhou Chengjun looked at the row of Mercedes-Benz wedding cars and muttered, "It seems today is another good day." When his gaze shifted to the Mercedes-Benz G-Class, especially to Lin Fan in the driver's seat, his face showed a touch of excitement. "Mr. Lin." "Mercedes-Benz G-Class, that's right, it's Mr. Lin." He opened his mouth and wanted to say hello. At this moment the red light turned green. Lin Fan stepped on the accelerator and sped forward. Originally, Zhou Chengjun was going to talk about cooperation with someone today. However, now he changed his direction and followed Lin Fan closely. On the other hand, in Fengsheng district, two young men were already standing in front of the gate. The shorter young man said, "Is the bride escort coming soon?" "It should be soon. Uncle Gong told us to make things difficult for the groom in case he thinks it's too easy to marry Sister Sicken. However, I'm worried that it'll be a little difficult with just the two of us," the round-faced young man said. "Don't worry, you still have me," a loud and clear voice came from behind. When the two of them heard this, their faces immediately revealed a touch of joy and they shouted in unison, "Brother Damming." "Hee, since Brother Damming is here, there's nothing to worry about," the shorter young man said. "That's right, Brother Damming is the captain of our Qing City investigation team. If he were to stand here, he'd be able to block even a dozen bandits," the round-faced young man said. In fact, Wang Damming was not the captain of Qing City's investigation team. He was just a team leader. However, he did not explain anything, he just listened to their praise and felt smug about it. Wang Damming smiled and waved his hand. "I'm not that powerful, I usually just catch a few petty thieves. However, it's impossible for the groom to marry Sicken so easily today." The two young men gave him a thumbs up and said, "Brother Damming, you're indeed worthy of your name. Brother Damming, have a cigarette." "I'll light a fire for Brother Damming." Wang Damming took the cigarette with a smile and took a deep puff, his face full of enjoyment. Beep. At this time, a loud horn sounded in the distance. Wang Damming's and the other two's expressions changed, and they quickly threw the cigarette butts into the trash can. As soon as they were done, several Mercedes-Benz cars appeared in their field of vision. The car in the lead was a Mercedes-Benz G-Class car with decorations on it. "The groom is here." The bridal convoy obviously knew the rules. When they saw the three people standing in front of the gate of the community, they parked their cars one after another. Then Lin Fan, Wang Xiaodong and the others slowly got out of the cars. It was also at this time Wang Damming, who was originally blocking the gate of the community, immediately stepped aside. No. Not only did Wang Damming give in, but he also pulled the other two young people and retreated to the side. Then, like a soldier meeting his leader, he straightened his back and saluted. The two young men were a little dumbfounded. What was going on? Did Brother Damming not just say that he could not let the groom marry Sicken easily? Did he not say he was going to make things difficult for the groom? Why did he suddenly retreat to the side? He even pulled the two of them aside. Were they really blocking the door? It looked more like they were here to pick up a relative. There was a custom in Qing City. When a couple got married, the bride would let some capable people with status act as gatekeepers and make things difficult for the groom in all ways. In this way, the groom would know that marriage was not easy and he would cherish his wife more. The man could find people with strong abilities and high status to act as escorts, thus reducing the difficulty. The reason why Wang Damming suddenly stepped aside was that he saw Lin Fan. This was the third time Wang Damming had met Lin Fan. The first time was at the Central Hospital of Qing City. That day, when the leader of Qing City visited the Central Hospital, Wang Damming acted as a guard to protect the leader. At that time, the leader of Qing City was extremely close to Lin Fan. He even took the initiative to visit Lin Fan's father at the hospital the next day. The second time was at Yinshan Mall. At that time, Wang Daming received a call from the police and realized that Lin Fan was almost beaten up by a group of security guards. Wang Daming's colleagues kept asking him to catch Lin Fan. Wang Daming was almost scared to death. Later, when the head captain found out about the incident, he immediately dealt with the related personnel strictly. Even Wang Daming himself was criticized. Today was the third time they had met. In Qing City, the higher the status of the escorts, the less difficult it would be. This meant that the bride would marry better. For someone like Lin Fan, who even the higher-ups had to treat as an equal and even please, how could they make things difficult for him? Absolutely not. The groom Wang Xiaodong naturally did not know the reason. However, when he saw that the people blocking the door had left, he was happy to relax and walked straight inside. At the same time, loud firecrackers were set off in the neighborhood. The middle-aged man standing in front of the building frowned and said, "What's wrong with Wang Daming? He let the groom in so quickly." With a cigarette in his mouth, Gong Leki pouted and said, "Is he really the captain of the investigation team? He's so useless." The middle-aged man next to him said, "Wang Daming is a young man, after all. Third brother, you're now the security captain of Yinshan Mall. You have experience in blocking people. I'll still have to rely on you to block the door later and make things difficult for the groom. If it's too easy for the groom to get upstairs, he'll probably think that Sikin is easy to marry." Gong Leki patted his chest and said, "Leave it to me. Normally, I'd be able to stop a dozen security guards without any problem. Today, I'll definitely give the groom an unforgettable wedding." The middle-aged man nodded in relief. Soon, a large group of people arrived in front of the building. When Gong Leki saw the groom, Wang Xiaodong, walking in the front, he was quite relaxed. However, when he caught sight of Lin Fan, his eyes narrowed. It was him, the mysterious Mr. Lin, who was the largest shareholder of Yinshan Mall. At this moment, the middle-aged man reminded him, "They're here." Then he was pulled by Gong Leki from the entrance of the building to the side. The middle-aged man looked at Gong Leki in a daze. "What was going on? Didn't you just say that I can leave this to you? Didn't you say that you'll handle it?" However, he was letting the groom and the rest enter immediately. This was the wedding process that would definitely be unforgettable for the groom. Was this how it was done? Oh right, it was unforgettable because it was too simple and too easy. The groom, Wang Xiaodong, still did not understand what was going on. However, he did not stop walking through the door. It was a very good thing to get married easily. The middle-aged man did not react until the groom, Wang Xiaodong, and the others had gone upstairs. He shouted in a low voice, "Third brother, didn't you want to make things difficult for them? What's wrong with you? Why did you pull me to the side? Now they're going up directly. Make things difficult for them. Make things difficult for Lin Fan. How is that possible?" Gong Leki did not reply immediately. He just looked at Lin Fan's disappearing back and muttered, "Sikin has found a good husband." Although Wang Xiaodong's condition was still not good for the time being to Gong Leki, since he had a friend like Lin Fan, he would definitely do well in the future. In the living room, Gong Sikin's mother was packing back and forth, looking a little nervous. Gong Sikin's father took a sip of tea and said with a smile, "Relax. Wang Xiaodong has just arrived in the community. He'll be troubled by third brother and damning for at least an hour. Why are you so nervous now?" As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Xiaodong and a large group of people walked in quickly. Seeing this, Gong Sikin's parents were both stunned. What was going on? Did Wang Xiaodong not just arrive at the neighborhood? Why did he come upstairs so quickly? Even if he were to walk normally, it would probably take more time to walk from the entrance of the community to their home. Did third brother and damning not stop them? Wang Xiaodong did not care so much. He greeted Gong Sikin's parents with a smile and walked straight to the door. At this moment in the room, Gong Sikin and her best friend Huang Zifei had also noticed the commotion outside. Huang Zifei said disdainfully, "Aren't the people blocking the door in front too weak? they let Wang Xiaodong come up so quickly. Sikin, don't worry, she said after a pause. I'll guard your home. I'm a nurse at the Central Hospital of Qing City. I have to deal with the hospital fees of countless patients every day. I'll be the last person to block the door. I'll make sure that Wang Xiaodong won't marry you so easily. Wang Zifei slowly walked toward the door. At the same time, she turned on the surveillance camera that had been installed earlier to observe the situation outside. Huang Zifei's gaze swept across Wang Xiaodong and the others. When she saw Lin Fan, her relaxed face immediately showed an unconcealed shock. It was him, the family member of the patient staying in the VIP ward. Not long ago, Huang Zifei had been assigned to take care of a special care patient, Lin Tao. Huang Zifei clearly remembered how polite the director had been to the patient's son, Lin Fan. At that time, Huang Zifei understood that Lin Fan was a big shot. Therefore, when she was taking care of Lin Tao, she was especially attentive. Later on, when Lin Fan conversed with the director, he casually mentioned that she had taken good care of his father. After that, Huang Zifei was publicly praised by the hospital. Huang Zifei did not expect to meet Lin Fan here. Furthermore, he was one of the people picking the bride up. Did she still have to make it difficult for him? How is that possible? Huang Zifei did not hesitate at all. She opened the door and respectfully retreated to the side. Gong Sikin, who was sitting in front of the dressing table, was dumbfounded. What was going on? Huang Zifei, is this what you meant when you said that the people blocking the door were too weak? Is this what you meant by guarding the door of my home? Just like that, Gong Sikin was carried out of the room by Wang Xiaodong with a confused face. In fact, Gong Sikin was not the only one who was confused. Her parents, as well as most of the guests, were also dumbfounded. This did not seem to be the plan they came up with a few days ago. Wang Xiaodong had completed the marriage ceremony so easily. From the time he entered the neighborhood until now, had it been 5 minutes. 5 minutes. This was probably, he was going to set a record for the fastest marriage in Qing City, right? Wang Xiaodong did not care so much. He walked to the side and silently poured hot water. He was ready to offer tea to Gong Sikin's parents and complete the last step of the marriage ceremony. At this moment, a series of heavy footsteps came from the corridor. Then Zhou Chengzhen strode in. When he saw Lin Fan, he heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Lin Fan had already left. After that, Zhou Chengzhen smiled and said, I came uninvited. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wish the couple a happy wedding. Most of the people present did not know Zhou Chengzhen, and some even thought that he had come to the wrong place. Therefore, they did not reply immediately. Gong Leki, who was standing in the crowd, said in surprise, General Manager Zhou, why are you here? Do you know him? Someone asked. Gong Leki did not reply. He walked up and said respectfully, Hello, General Manager Zhou. One had to know. Gong Leki was also a capable person in everyone's eyes. Not long ago, he became the security captain of Yinshan Mall, and many people were envious of him. However, he was actually so respectful to the middle-aged man in front of him. General Manager Zhou. Everyone could not help but secretly guess his identity. I remember now, he's Zhou Chengzhen, someone said quickly. Who's Zhou Chengzhen? Asked the person beside him. Are you still from Qing City? You don't even know that he's the general manager of Yinshan Mall, someone else shouted. That's right, he's Zhou Chengzhen. I've seen the news about him a few days ago, someone shouted. As soon as they said that, the scene immediately became lively. Yinshan Mall was the largest shopping center in Qing City. The general manager of Yinshan Mall was the boss of Yinshan Mall. This kind of existence was definitely a big shot in everyone's eyes. Now he had actually come to the scene. To them, it was as if a noble had suddenly come to the commoner's cave. How novel and exciting. Zhou Chengzhen nodded at Gong Leki, then walked to Lin Fan's side and said respectfully, Hello, Mr. Lin. Lin Fan said, that incident at Yinshan Mall is already in the past, don't take it to heart. Thank you, Mr. Lin, Zhou Chengzhen quickly said. The stone in his heart finally fell. Last time, Lin Fan was almost beaten up by the security guards at Yinshan Mall. Lin Fan had told Chairman Song Jiafeng that he had handled it well. However, Zhou Chengzhen was still a little worried and scared. He wanted to look for Lin Fan and apologize once more. Therefore, when Gong Leki said that he had seen Lin Fan, he put down everything he was doing and rushed over. He followed them here today for the same reason. Now, after hearing Lin Fan's words, Zhou Chengzhen understood that the matter was finally over. "This is the groom Wang Xiaodong. He's also my good friend," Lin Fan said. Zhou Chengzhen quickly took out a gold bangle from his pocket and said, "Mr. Wang, congratulations on your wedding." Ever since he saw Lin Fan at the traffic light, Zhou Chengzhen had been following him. When he saw Lin Fan enter Fengsheng district, Zhou Chengzhen hurriedly turned around and went to the nearest jewelry store to buy the gold bracelet. That was why he was a few steps late. Wang Xiaodong quickly said, This is too valuable." This gold bangle was very thick and heavy. At first glance it was probably worth tens of thousands of yuan. Wang Xiaodong and Zhou Chengzhen had no relationship with each other at all. He did not dare to accept such a valuable gift. "Xiaodong, just accept it," Lin Fan smiled. "Otherwise, wouldn't General Manager Zhou have made a wasted trip?" Zhou Chengzhen also chimed in, "That's right, Mr. Wang, please accept it, this is nothing." Wang Xiaodong hesitated for a while and finally put the gold bangle away. Zhou Chengzhen thought for a while, then took out a business card from his pocket and said, "Mr. Wang, we can keep in touch in the future." Wang Xiaodong was Lin Fan's good friend. It would not hurt to interact more with him. At this moment, there was the sound of footsteps outside the corridor. Then two men in suits and leather shoes, exuding an extraordinary aura, strode in. The man walking in front smiled and said, "Congratulations to the newlyweds. May they have a happy wedding and be united forever." When everyone saw him, they frowned again. That was because they felt that this person was a little familiar. However, they were certain that they did not know who he was. At this time, Wang Daming, who was standing in the crowd, blurted out, "Leader Zhao." His words were like a bomb that exploded at the scene. Wang Daming's body could not help but shake. "That's right, it's the big leader. I even saw him on the news yesterday. Oh my God, the big leader is actually here. Good day, leader." Everyone was going crazy. That was right, the person was the leader of Qing City, Zhao Jiaqi. It had to be said that Zhao Jiaqi was a busy and attentive leader. Even though it was a Sunday, he still went out to deal with some matters. On the way, Zhao Jiaqi happened to see Lin Fan driving the wedding car. After thinking for a while, Zhao Jiaqi made the same choice as Zhou Chengzhen and followed closely behind. Thus the scene in front of them appeared. Zhao Jiaqi smiled at the crowd as a form of greeting. Then, just like Zhou Chengzhen, he came to Lin Fan's side and said, "Lil bro Lin, long time no see." "Yeah, it's been almost 2 weeks," Lin Fan said. "Brother Zhao, this is the groom today and my good friend Wang Xiaodong." Zhao Jiaqi smiled and said, "Mr. Wang, you're a man of striking appearance. I wish you a happy marriage and that you'll have a child soon." After he finished speaking, he handed out a red packet. Wang Xiaodong was completely dumbfounded by Zhao Jiaqi's arrival. He might keep in touch with Zhou Chengzhen from Yinshan Group in the future. Now the leader of Qing City, Zhao Jiaqi, was in existence at the top of the world. Under usual circumstances, he would never be able to see someone like him in his life. Now he was actually attending his wedding. He even gave him a red packet. Wang Xiaodong was so excited that he did not know what to do. "Xiaodong, hurry up and accept the red packet," Lin Fan laughed. Wang Xiaodong finally reacted and said, thank you, leader." Even though the red packet was not thick and it was actually very thin in Wang Xiaodong's hand, it was like 1,000 pounds. This was a red packet personally given by the leader of Qing City. Everyone looked at Wang Xiaodong and the others with envy. Wang Xiaodong was already excited and nervous because of the leader's presence. At this moment, with so many people staring at him, he was even more at a loss. Lin Fan reminded him, "Xiaodong, didn't you just pour some tea? Quickly, serve some tea to my in-laws." Yes, Wang Xiaodong said. Then he quickly picked up the teacups and walked to Gong Sikin's parents. "Father-in-law, mother-in-law, please have some tea." When Gong Sikin's parents saw that Wang Xiaodong managed to pick up their daughter easily, they decided that they would make things difficult for Wang Xiaodong again during the tea-drinking ceremony. No matter what, they had to let Wang Xiaodong understand how difficult it was to marry their daughter. However, at this moment, they had completely thrown these thoughts to the back of their minds. They took the slightly cold tea and poured it into their mouths. The two of them smiled and said, "Good, our good son-in-law. Make things difficult for Wang Xiaodong." What a joke! The general manager of Yinshan Mall and the leader of Qing City had personally come to give gifts. Wang Xiaodong was such a good son-in-law. They had to hold him tightly in their hands, so why would they make things difficult for him? What if Wang Xiaodong felt that it was too difficult to marry their daughter and decided not to marry her? What should they do then? Wang Xiaodong heaved a sigh of relief. Just like this, the marriage ceremony was completed. Wang Xiaodong turned around and said seriously, "Lin Fan, thank you, I really don't know how to repay you." He knew very well that the general manager of Yinshan Group and the leader of Qing City had come to give him gifts because of Lin Fan. As a result, he had become familiar with the leader of Qing City. Yinshan Group's general manager even took the initiative to give him a business card. These, to him, they would definitely bring him endless benefits. In fact, the reason why today's wedding was so smooth was all because of Lin Fan's efforts. "Xiaodong, why are you being so polite?" Lin Fan smiled. "When we were deskmates in junior high school, you often gave me ballpoint pens, exercise books, and even meal tickets. At that time, you didn't ask for anything in return, did you? Some ballpoint pens, exercise books, and meal tickets." Now Lin Fan had returned the favor with something so huge. A drop of kindness would be repaid with a fountain. When some of the people around heard this, they silently thought to themselves, "Should I ask my children to give their deskmates some ballpoint pens and exercise books?" The two young men standing beside Wang Daming whispered, "Brother Daming, I finally understand why you pulled us aside just now." "I'll have to get closer to Sikin's family in the future," Wang Daming muttered to himself. "That's right," the two young men nodded. The middle-aged man beside Gong Leki said, "Third brother, it's a good thing you pulled me to the side earlier. Sikin has found such a good husband, so why would we put the groom in a difficult position? They should hurry up and get married." Gong Leki nodded in agreement. These words seemed to have been heard by Gong Sikin's parents. They urged him, "Good son-in-law, look, it's getting late, hurry up and bring Sikin to your house." In the past, when parents married off their daughters, they would all wish that their daughters could stay at home for a while longer. Who would be like Gong Sikin's parents? It was as if she would not be able to get married if she was one step slower. Wang Xiaodong nodded. Then, a large group of people headed toward the Yi family's estate. Lin Fan and Zhou Chengjun followed. Zhao Jiaqi left immediately. After all, he was the leader of Qing City, and there were many things waiting for him to deal with. It was already very rare for him to be able to take some time out today to attend the wedding. At Wang Xiaodong's wedding, Lin Fan was arranged to sit at the head of the table. From time to time, people would toast to him, and the atmosphere was very cheerful. Lin Fan had the ability of drinking gentlemen. He could drink 1,000 glasses without getting drunk. However, when one drank too much, it was inevitable that they would have to use the loo. When Lin Fan entered the washroom, his phone vibrated. 12:00 p.m. Red packets appeared. "Ding, congratulations, you have received 10,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 20 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 3 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained professional Xianqi skills. Ding, congratulations, you've received 5 yuan. Today, Lin Fan received a total of 30,200 yuan and professional chess skills. Lin Fan chose to ignore the 30,200 yuan. He immediately turned his attention to his professional chess skills. Professional chess skills: horse walking the sun, elephant walking the field. Every chess move is played well, unparalleled skills are displayed, and you'll show amazing charm. Lin Fan could not help but mumble, "Yesterday I received professional Go skills, and today I received professional chess skills. Are you trying to make me an invincible chess player? Lin Fan shook his head and returned to the banquet. At this moment there was already a large group of people standing at the side, waiting to give him a toast. Lin Fan was the same as before, not rejecting anyone. Everyone ate and drank together, and the wedding banquet finally came to an end. Most people would reek of alcohol for a long time after drinking. Their blood contained a high concentration of alcohol, which caused them to be delirious. However, Lin Fan had drinking gentleman. He drank wine like he was drinking water. After the wine entered his stomach, it quickly broke down. There was no smell of alcohol on his body and there was no alcohol in his blood. Thus, after the wedding, he drove straight home. Lin Fan spent the entire afternoon with his parents and sister. It was a very relaxed and warm time. Dai Weixu had specially prepared dinner earlier and told Lin Fan to go to Jiangbei early, in case it was too late and not safe on the road. Before he left, Lin Xiaoyao reminded him, "Brother, the next time you come back, remember to send me a message in advance." "All right," Lin Fan said. As soon as he finished speaking, he stepped on the accelerator and drove the Mercedes-Benz G-Class forward. About an hour later, Lin Fan arrived at Jiangbei. He did not go back to school but went straight to Yaqi City. Room 2501. This was the place that Lin Fan had given to Qiu Ziqian a few days ago. Last time, Lin Fan clearly remembered that his house could only be considered clean and tidy. However, it was also very quiet and empty. At this moment there were plants, flowers, and goldfish in the house. There were also beautiful calligraphy and paintings hanging on the wall. The air in the entire house was fresh, warm, and filled with the smell of home. Just then Qiu Ziqian slowly walked out of the room. Since she was at home, Qiu Ziqian wore relatively little, only a white silk dress. It was because of this that her fiery, fair figure was displayed even more perfectly in front of Lin Fan. Absence made the heart grow fonder. Their eyes met and as if attracted by a magnet, the two quickly embraced each other. Then, their figures could be seen on the sofa, balcony, and room. The entire house seemed to be shaking. About 3 hours later, things slowly calmed down. Qiu Ziqian was like a lazy kitten, lying in Lin Fan's arms. Creak, creak. At this moment the door creaked. Then a beautiful figure strolled in and said, "Ziqian, I'm here with the fish feed." When she saw Lin Fan and Qiu Ziqian hugging each other, she immediately let out a high-pitched scream. Huang Ling's face was as red as a tomato. Then she quickly turned her head away. The sudden appearance of a person had Lin Fan extremely shocked and embarrassed. "That's my roommate Huang Ling," Qiu Ziqian said with a smile. "This place is too big and I'm bored living alone, so I asked her to move in. Darling, you won't blame me, right?" Lin Fan waved his hands. "Of course not, it's a good thing to have someone with you." The two of them talked as they put on their clothes. Then they walked into the living room. Qiu Ziqian acted as if nothing had happened and poured Lin Fan a cup of tea. Huang Ling's face was still a little red. She raised her head and looked at Lin Fan. Then she lowered her head like a shy little rabbit. Earlier, Lin Fan was indeed a little embarrassed. At this moment he had recovered. He looked at Huang Ling's shy expression and found it interesting. He quietly sized her up. Like Qiu Ziqian, Huang Ling's skin was very fair and her figure was excellent. Her facial features were more three-dimensional, which were very pleasing to the eye. Lin Fan praised in his heart, "There are indeed beauties beside a beauty." Lin Fan then used his eyes of truth to check her out. Face value 95. Favorability 75. Lin Fan was not too surprised by her face value of 95. However, a favorability of 75. She seemed to have a good impression of him. At this moment, Qiu Ziqian, who was sitting next to him, introduced, "Darling, this is my best friend Huang Ling." "Huang Ling, it's a nice name. Hello, I'm Lin Fan," Lin Fan introduced himself. At the same time, he extended his right hand toward her. Huang Ling stretched out her dainty hand and shook Lin Fan's hand gently. Her skin was smooth and her fingers were slender. Lin Fan could not help but think of this. Qiu Ziqian took advantage of her free time to go to the kitchen and cut some apples, watermelon, and honeydew. She put them onto a plate and served it in the living room. After being introduced to each other and eating some fruits, the atmosphere finally relaxed. "Oh right Zikian, how much money do you have left?" Lin Fan asked. The house had changed a lot, so she had probably spent a lot of money on it. "I bought a Mini Cooper this week, then I bought some furniture and cosmetics. I also transferred 200,000 yuan to my family. I still have 310,000 yuan on hand," Qiu Zikian said honestly. When Lin Fan heard this, he let out a weird expression. "A Mini Cooper. A Mini Cooper again." Did that not mean that almost all the girls who were related to him had a Mini Cooper? Then Lin Fan took out his phone and started working on it. Ding ding. Qiu Zikian's phone vibrated. At the same time her phone rang out. "WeChat transfer 1 million yuan. Qiu Zikian looked at the long row of zeros on her phone. She did not even care about Huang Ling, who was still sitting beside her. Her hot lips immediately landed on Lin Fan's body. "Darling, thank you." "There's no need for thanks between us," Lin Fan said with a smile. Huang Ling's beautiful eyes widened. What, he gave her 1 million just like that? Huang Ling had heard of some generous people, but she had never heard of anyone who would give 1 million yuan for 2 weeks straight. This. Did his family operate a money-printing factory? It was nighttime. It was uncertain if it was because absence made the heart grow fonder or if there were other reasons, but the entire bed was shaking more violently than before. Huang Ling, who was next door, could still hear the sounds even if she covered her ears. She tossed and turned all night, unable to fall asleep. The next day, Qiu Zikian woke up early and made a sumptuous breakfast. There were dumplings, noodles, poached eggs, fruit, milk, and everything else. Lin Fan ate to his heart's content, then headed straight to Jiangbei University. At this moment, Huang Ling finally dragged her tired body out slowly. "You don't seem to have rested well," Qiu Zikian asked. "You guys were so loud last night, how could I have had a good rest?" Huang Ling said. Qiu Zikian was not embarrassed at all, instead she smiled. "What do you think of Lin Fan?" she asked. "How was he?" "He was young, handsome, rich, and generous. He was the perfect male god." Normally, as her best friend, Huang Ling should stop Qiu Zikian from dating Lin Fan. However, at this moment, Huang Ling had no intention of dissuading her. In fact, there was an inexplicable trace of envy in her heart and also a trace of jealousy. It was very strange. Therefore, even though Huang Ling opened her mouth, she did not comment on Lin Fan right away. Qiu Zikian looked at Huang Ling's expression. How could she not know what she was thinking? She took Huang Ling's hand and asked, "How about it, do you want to follow Lin Fan?" Huang Ling's face instantly turned red. She shook her head and said, "No, no." This seemed to be within Qiu Zikian's expectations. She did not force it and said, "Let's eat first." At this time, Lin Fan had already returned to Jiangbei University. Originally, he had a class with Tianqian today, but she was temporarily transferred to evaluate the results of the mathematical modeling competition. Hence, an old professor replaced the teacher. The students, who were originally excited, were completely dispirited when they saw that the old professor was teaching. However, this was a good thing for Lin Fan. He was a little tired from last night. Now, Lin Fan was listening to the old professor's long-winded lecture. It was like a lullaby, bringing him directly into his dreams. Lin Fan had an extremely comfortable sleep. It was already noon when he woke up. As usual, Lin Fan went to the canteen to line up and eat. At this moment his phone vibrated. 12:00 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding, congratulations, you've received 3 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you have received 10 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 40,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 1 yuan. Today, Lin Fan only received 50,105 yuan and nothing else. In the afternoon, the old professor had another class. Lin Fan was welcomed by a lullaby once more and slept very soundly. When the school bell rang, Lin Fan finally woke up. At this moment, a beautiful figure appeared beside him. "It's my birthday today. I'm planning to host a small party at home. Do you have time to come over?" Lin Fan's face was filled with shock. He did not expect Song Jiaxin and Qin Yuxuan's birthdays to be so close. "What's the matter? Do you have any arrangements?" Song Jiaxin saw that Lin Fan did not reply immediately and asked suspiciously. "No, no, I'll definitely be there on time tonight," Lin Fan said. "All right, I'll send you the address later," Song Jiaxin smiled. After she finished speaking, she slowly walked away. At this moment, Lin Fan felt as if he was being stared at by a pack of hungry wolves. He could not help but shiver and look around. He only saw Song Yi Zheng Jinbo and Ma Zhong were looking at him with red eyes. "We kneel to brother Lin Fan," they shouted in unison. 71 buy a gift and get 'em all. Lin Fan looked at their funny faces and laughed. "What are you guys doing?" First, it was the twin sisters, then it was teacher Tianchen, now even the ice beauty Song Jiaxin has taken the initiative to invite you. "Brother Lin Fan, are you the reincarnation of the saint of love?" Song Yi shouted. "Brother Lin Fan, have you ever thought about the feelings of single men like us?" Zhang Jinbo asked. Ma Zhong nodded his head. Lin Fan burst out laughing once more. Lin Fan did not go back to his dormitory. He drove his Lamborghini directly to KM Mall. After all, he had to prepare a present for Song Jiaxin's birthday party. Chanel's jewelry store. The female sales assistant of medium build smiled and said, "Welcome to Chanel, how can I help you?" Lin Fan did not reply. Instead, he quickly scanned the glass cabinet. Not long after, he pointed to a purple bracelet in the middle of the counter and said, "Let me see this bracelet." "This is Chanel's latest bracelet," the saleswoman said. "It's called the Heart of Secrets. It was made by a famous designer from Naston, Lawrence Dory. The main body of this bracelet is made of 5 diamonds and amethyst gems. Look, these 5 diamonds are surrounding each other like a leaf. The 4-leaf clover represents luck, while the 5-leaf clover represents mystery. Coupled with the equally mysterious purple color, the entire bracelet is even more mysterious. It's deep and dazzling, making people yearn for it, but it's also hard to grasp." Lin Fan listened to the sales assistant's introduction and looked at the bracelet carefully. He asked, "How much is this bracelet?" "The Heart of Secrets is being sold for 588,888 yuan. If you're sure you want it, I can apply for a 10% discount from the store manager," the female sales assistant said. Lin Fan knew that Song Jiaxin's family definitely did not lack money. The bracelet looked good and had a good meaning. The price was 588,888 yuan, not too expensive nor too cheap. It was just right. "All right," Lin Fan nodded. "Help me wrap it up. As for the discount, I'll give it to you as a tip." After all, the female shop assistant's introduction was quite good. As for the discount, Lin Fan did not really care about it. The saleswoman's heart was beating wildly with joy when she heard this. She quickly said, "Thank you, sir." After all, 10% of 588,888 yuan was a total of 5,888 yuan. This was not a small sum of money. In addition, she could also get a commission if she sold the bracelet. These two added together were already equivalent to 1 or 2 months of her salary. Soon, the saleswoman placed the Heart of Secrets in an extremely beautiful box and gave him some small gifts to express her gratitude. Lin Fan returned to his Lamborghini and looked at his phone screen. "You've spent 580,000 yuan and received 58 red packets. Do you want to collect all of them?" Obviously, these were the red packets that he had just received from buying the bracelet. Lin Fan tapped to receive it. "Ding, congratulations, you've received 10 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 20,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 1 km mall in Jiangbei. Ding, congratulations, you've received 5,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 800 yuan." From the 58 red packets, Lin Fan received a total of 102,020 yuan and 1 km mall. 1 km mall. Lin Fan's face turned extremely weird. Was his current location not KM Mall? In other words, he bought a bracelet and got a mall. KM Mall was located in the city center of Jiangbei. It was the most high-end shopping center in the whole of Jiangbei. Its market value was probably above 1 billion. It became his just like that. When Lin Fan raised his head, a stack of title deeds appeared in front of him. KM Mall property owner Lin Fan. When Lin Fan saw this, his lips curled up. Song Jiaxin's house was located at number 6, Stars Villa, which was not far from KM Mall. Stars Villa was full of flowers and trees, like a big park with pleasant scenery. Villa number 6 was located inside Stars Villa, close to the most famous lake in Jiangbei, Tianhu. Villa number 6. Sitting in the 500 square meter front yard, one could enjoy the peace and fragrance of the trees and flowers. When one opened the window, one could see the sparkling surface of the lake, which was very enjoyable. When Lin Fan arrived at Villa number 6, Sun Luguo, Liu Yuheng, and the others were already chatting in the backyard. When they saw Lin Fan, they all came over and greeted him. Lin Fan, long time no see, Sun Luguo said with a smile. Brother Lin Fan, you finally come, Liu Yuheng put his arm around Lin Fan's shoulder. Some of the people who did not know who Lin Fan was had suspicious looks on their faces as they asked the people around them in low voices. They were very clear on Sun Luguo's and Liu Yuheng's identities. For Sun Luguo to take the initiative to greet him and for Liu Yuheng to affectionately call him Brother Lin Fan, it was clear that he had a big background. However, Jiangbei was only so big, by right they should know such a person. However, they seemed to have never seen him before, which was very strange. In fact, when Sun Luguo heard Liu Yuheng call him Brother Lin Fan, he was also surprised. Liu Yuheng was a big shot, and he was actually a very proud person. Even though Lin Fan had indeed beaten the two of them in the previous race. Liu Yuheng would not call him Brother Lin Fan just because of that. Liu Yuheng naturally would not explain that Lin Fan had a close relationship with the old man from the Zhou family. He had even saved his life. Calling him Brother Lin Fan was a sign of sincere admiration. Lin Fan also smiled and greeted them. I didn't expect you guys to come so early. Liu Yuheng waved his hand. Not at all, we've only been here for a short while. After a pause, he pointed to a few people and introduced, that's Zhu Chongliang Lin Zhengfei. Then he said in an extremely solemn tone, this is Lin Fan, Brother Lin Fan. The few people who were introduced did not dare to show any neglect. They extended their hands and said, Brother Lin Fan, how are you? Hello, Lin Fan said. At this time, a series of crisp footsteps came from not far away. Today's main character, Song Jiaxin, had finally appeared. It was different from usual. At this moment, Song Jiaxin's hair was tied up high, and on her fair face there was an exquisite touch of makeup, making her look more dignified. A white dress with diamond embellishments wrapped around her body like clouds. With the star-like gems on her neck, she looked like a fairy walking in the sky. She was beautiful and mesmerizing. At this moment, everyone could not help but think that she was so beautiful. Looking at Song Jiaxin, who was walking over slowly, even Lin Fan was a little stunned. It was as if this was the first time a fairy had descended to the mortal world. Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of truth to observe Song Jiaxin. Face value 97. Favorability 75. Lin Fan clearly remembered that the first time he met Song Jiaxin, her face value was 95 and her favorability was 60. Now, after dressing up, her face value had directly increased to 97. One could not be fooled by a mere 2 points. However, that was an additional 2 points on top of her 95 points in good looks, which was very rare. Also, when did her favorability increase so much? At this moment, Song Jiaxin had already walked in front of everyone. Happy birthday, big sis Jiaxin, a young man said. At the same time, he handed over a beautifully wrapped gift. Thank you, she said. Song Jiaxin smiled and accepted it. After someone took the lead, everyone present also handed out their gifts. Happy birthday, Lin Fan said. Thank you, she said. Song Jiaxin maintained her smile. Then 3 grills were carried up. Top-grade beef, meat skewers, Australian lobsters, sea cucumbers, abalones and other ingredients were also served. The place was filled with a group of young people. They were chatting and barbecuing at the same time. They were all having a great time and the atmosphere was very relaxed. Liu Yuheng saw the chessboard in the backyard and said, "Brother Lin Fan, how about we play a game of chess?" The constant barbecue was starting to bore Lin Fan out. "Sure," he replied. The two of them quickly sat opposite each other and set up the chessboard. Liu Yuheng chuckled and said, "Brother Lin Fan, I lost to you in the race last time. Today I'm going to use chess to get back at you. I'll let you go first. What do you think?" "You want me to go first?" Lin Fan asked curiously. After all, he now had professional chess skills. Liu Yuheng wanted to compete with him. Was this not courting death? "Brother Lin Fan, I'm not looking down on you," Liu Yuheng said. "It's just that my skills are too good." After he finished speaking, he fired the cannon. Lin Fan followed. The two of them continued to move the chess pieces on the board. Liu Yuheng's chess skills were quite good. He had the ability to predict every move Lin Fan made. Ordinary people might not be his match. However, the person he was facing now was Lin Fan. Not long after, Liu Yuheng's brows furrowed deeply. "I lose," he said helplessly. "Liu Yuheng lost in chess," someone said. "No way, didn't he win an award before?" the person beside him said. Sun Luguo's face revealed a hint of surprise. In the past, Liu Yuheng's chess skills were famous in the circle. In fact, he could be said to be invincible. There was a time when Liu Yuheng would often show off his chess skills in front of him. Just like this, he lost. Liu Yuheng said, "Brother Lin Fan, your skills really surprised me. It seems like I really can't let this slide. Let's play another round." Lin Fan nodded his head. The people around them had a look of realization on their faces. It turned out that Liu Yuheng had just given up. No wonder he lost. At this moment, the crowd was also a little interested. Some were holding their food and some were drinking red wine, but they stood aside quietly watching the two play chess. "General! General! General, eat the carriage." Lin Fan attacked a few times and in the end, he ate Liu Yuheng's chess piece. Everyone was secretly amazed. As today's main character, Song Jiaxin's beautiful eyes also slightly wavered. As everyone's attention was focused on the chess game, a white-haired old man slowly walked over. Lin Fan continued to move the carriage, horse, and cannon. Very quickly he said, "General." "I lost," Liu Yuheng said, sighing. The old man could not help but say, "Young man, your skills are not bad." "Grandpa, when did you come over?" Song Jiaxin smiled as she held onto the old man's arm. "Hello, Grandpa Song," the crowd greeted. Song Wenming smiled and nodded at everyone as a form of greeting. "I've only been here for a while," he said. Then he smiled at Lin Fan. "I rarely see a young man like you who has such skills in chess." "Grandpa Song, you're overpraising me. I only know a little bit," Lin Fan said. "Young man, you're too humble," Song Wenming said. "Are you interested in playing a game with me?" Liu Yuheng quickly stood up and gave up his seat. "Grandpa Song, please," Lin Fan said. After the player was changed to Song Wenming, everyone paid even more attention. They almost surrounded the entire chessboard. "Eat the soldiers. Fire the cannons. Vote. General." In the courtyard, sounds could be heard from time to time. However, not long after, the sounds stopped. This time, Song Wenming paused for a long time. "I lost," he finally said. "Grandpa Song, thanks for going easy on me," Lin Fan said. Song Wenming smiled and shook his head. "You're very careful with your moves. Your layout is also very clever. You should know how to play Go, right?" "I know a little," Lin Fan said. "Is that so?" Song Wenming was a little surprised and said, "Then let's play a game of Go." As he spoke, Song Wenming turned the chessboard around. It was a Go board. "Young man, you first." "All right," Lin Fan said. He did not hesitate. He picked up a black piece and placed it in the center. "Huh, you're starting with Sky Origin," Song Wenming was surprised. He thought for a moment and placed the white piece in the star position. Thud, thud, thud. The two of them went back and forth, continuously placing pieces, causing a rhythmic knocking sound to ring out in the backyard. Most ordinary people might have only seen Go on TV. In reality, they did not know the rules of Go at all. In fact, they had never even touched Go before. However, everyone present belonged to the upper-class circle of Jiangbei. They had received all kinds of training since they were young. Go was one of them. They might not be good at Go, but they still knew the basic rules. At the start, they could still follow the thought process of Lin Fan and Song Wenming. However, it did not take long for everyone's eyes to blur, and their minds gradually became a little dazed. This was a result of the huge difference in their Go skills. Thud. At this moment, Lin Fan placed another piece down. Song Wenming, on the other hand, did not make another move. After a long time he sighed and said, "I've lost." When everyone heard that, they looked at Lin Fan with even more surprise. Old Master Song was a famous Go expert. Song Jiaxin, on the other hand, was staring at Lin Fan with her beautiful eyes. She looked at Lin Fan's actions of holding and placing a piece. His focused expression made her a little stunned. When Lin Fan finally won, Song Jiaxin's heart started to beat even faster. He had good grades in mathematics and was good at driving. Now he was even so skilled at chess and Go. Lin Fan, just how many more secrets do you have? Thank you, Grandpa Song, Lin Fan said. When Song Wenming heard that, he could not help but reevaluate Lin Fan. At such a young age, it was already very good to have such superb chess skills. Moreover, he was so humble. It was really rare. Lil Lin, shall we play another round? Song Wenming asked. From young man, he became Lil Lin. It was obvious that Song Wenming had already placed Lin Fan in a very high position in his heart. Why are you still playing Go? It's Jiaxin's birthday today. Why is everyone standing here and watching a game of Go? A hoarse voice came from behind. Then a white-haired old lady slowly walked out. Grandma, Song Jiaxin stepped forward to help her up. My good granddaughter, Huang Chunlin smiled. Grandma, it's still early, let Grandpa play a few more rounds, it'll be fine, Song Jiaxin said. Huang Chunlin said, what do you mean? If he wants to play Go, he can play it later. Song Wenming also stood up and smiled. Yes, it's your birthday today, Lil Lin and I will play next time. Mom, Dad, you're here too. In the distance, a middle-aged couple walked over. They were Song Jiaxin's parents. Everyone at the scene greeted them. Hello, uncles. Hello, aunts. The middle-aged couple also responded politely. Thank you for coming to Jiaxin's birthday party, I hope you guys have a good time. With the addition of Song Jiaxin's parents and grandparents, the crowd became a little more restrained. They also felt this, so they did not stay for long. After finding an excuse, they left together. As expected, after Song Jiaxin's elders left, the atmosphere in the backyard became lively again. Brother Lin Fan, it's fine that you're good at racing, but I didn't expect you to be so good at chess and Go as well. I feel like kneeling down in front of you, Liu Yuheng said. Really? Lin Fan smiled. Then kneel down, I won't mind. When the surrounding people heard this, they broke into laughter and the atmosphere was extremely joyous. After eating the cake, Lin Fan sat on the deck chair, facing the breeze and looking up at the bright stars. This villa is quite comfortable to live in. Song Jiaxin walked over and said, with your ability it should be easy for you to buy a villa here, right? Lin Fan said, a villa here should be around 100 to 200 million, right? That figure still makes me a little nervous. Although Lin Fan owned Kainkun 51% of Yinshan Group shares, a building in Washing Palace, KM Mall and many other assets. However, these were all from the system and could only be used for dividends and rent collection. They could not be sold. Lin Fan's true capital was only a mere 140 million. With 140 million, it was barely enough to buy a villa here. Lin Fan did not want to spend all his money so quickly. Song Jiaxin laughed, I didn't expect you to be short on money. One had to know that Lin Fan had casually rejected a sports car worth 28 million yuan. Lin Fan smiled and touched his nose. The birthday party lasted until 11 p.m. At this time, the school dormitory was already closed. Thus Lin Fan came to Yaqi City. It was night time. Lin Fan and Qiu Ziqian did not get any sleep. Huang Ling, who was in the room next door, was also sleepless. The next day, after Lin Fan had his breakfast, he drove to Jiangbei University as usual. When Lin Fan arrived at the classroom, the counselor Sun Yaedong was already standing on the podium. After the bell rang, Sun Yaedong smiled and said, "I've always thought that you were the best students in the school. It turns out that I have good taste. Next, I'll announce the provincial-level winners of the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Zhao Yin, third prize of the provincial level. Song Yi, third prize of the provincial level. Ma Zhang, second prize of the provincial level." When everyone heard their names, they all revealed a look of joy that was difficult to hide. Especially Song Yi, who almost jumped up in joy. Very quickly, Sun Yaedong finished reading out the names. "Brother Lin Fan, both of us have tough lives," Zhang Jinbao sighed. Sun Yaedong said, "Next, I'll announce the list of winners of the National Mathematical Modeling Competition." Lin Fan. Zhang Jinbao was speechless. It turned out that he was the only one with a bitter life. Sun Yaedong continued, "Lin Fan is the only national award winner in our class and also the only national award winner in the entire Jiangbei University. Please give him a round of applause." Sun Yaedong took the lead and started clapping. Immediately after, the entire classroom burst into lively applause. Song Jiaxin, who was sitting not too far away, could not help but look at Lin Fan with her bright eyes. As the two of them were sitting in the same row, she could only see Lin Fan's side when she turned her head. However, it was this one look that made Song Jiaxin's heart beat faster. Naturally, Lin Fan had no way of knowing this. At this moment, he felt a touch of joy in his heart. That was because a crisp notification rang out in Lin Fan's mind. "Ding, complete the task and win a national award in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. You've received 5 silver packets." The mission was completed. Sun Yaedong continued, "Lin Fan, you should get ready. You'll need to go to Jingbei in 2 days. You'll have to answer your oral defense on the spot to determine the level of the national award. Perform well and strive to bring back a higher education cup, ha ha ha." Speaking up to this point, Sun Yaedong could not help but burst out laughing. It was as if he could already see the scene of Lin Fan bringing back the higher education cup. However, he did not know that Lin Fan was not planning on going to Jingbei to defend his dissertation. Lin Fan had no interest in the national award or the higher education cup. Now that he had completed the mission, why make another trip to the capital? "I'm sorry, but I would rather sleep on my desk." 74 opening 10 silver packets, a big harvest. After Sun Yaedong left, Song Yi could not help but feel proud. "Teacher Sun's judgment isn't bad. You can tell that my ability is outstanding with a single glance." He paused and deliberately sighed. "It's a pity that I didn't perform well and only won the provincial third prize, unlike Ma Zhang and brother Lin Fan who won the provincial second prize and the national award." "I didn't win any awards," Zhang Jinbao pouted and said. Song Yi patted Zhang Jinbao's shoulder and said with a heavy heart, "You're not bad yourself. You have 2 roommates who won provincial awards and 1 roommate who won a national award." Zhang Jinbao was speechless. School ended earlier that day. After having lunch, Lin Fan lay down on his bed. Ding ding. The phone in his pocket vibrated slightly. 12:00 p.m. The red packets were here. "Ding, congratulations, you've received 8 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 99 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 2,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan." This time, Lin Fan received a total of 30,225 yuan. Then he turned his attention to the silver packets. He mumbled in his heart, "With the 5 silver packets I got for Yu Xuan's birthday, I have 10 silver packets in total. Let's see what I can get from them." Opened. Ding, congratulations, you've received 200,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received a double skill card. Ding, congratulations, you've received 500,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained Coiling Dragon Villa Complex. Ding, congratulations, you've obtained an energy shield. Lin Fan received 1.2 million yuan from the 10 silver packets. Lin Fan was not too concerned about this small amount of money. He immediately set his sights on the double skill card, the energy shield, and the coiling dragon villa complex. Double skill card, able to double the ability of a specific skill within an hour, possess more powerful skills and displays more charm. Lin Fan nodded his head slightly. It could double the ability of a skill, which was undoubtedly a very good thing. The only pity was that he only had 1 hour. Energy shield, it'll continuously absorb the energy in the world. When the host encounters danger, it'll automatically form a transparent protective shield to protect the host's safety. Lin Fan's eyes lit up. Even though Lin Fan had violent aesthetics and could fight against 100 people at once, this world was still in the era of firearms and explosives. If by any chance he was ambushed one day, he would not be able to escape. Now there was a certain guarantee. Coiling Dragon Villa Complex, a villa complex located by Tianhu Lake in the center of Jiangbei City. The scenery is beautiful and suitable for living. The moment Lin Fan saw this, he let out a weird expression. A villa area by the lake. He clearly remembered that there were 2 villa clusters by the lake. One was the cluster of Stars Villa where Song Jiaxin's family lived, and the other was the newly developed Coiling Dragon Villa cluster. Now he had become the owner of the Coiling Dragon Villa complex. When Lin Fan raised his head, he saw a bunch of keys and a stack of property certificates. Lin Fan slowly opened the title deed. Coiling Dragon Villa Number 1, 3,200 square meters in area. Property owner, Lin Fan. Coiling Dragon Villa Number 2, 3,300 square meters in area. Property owner, Lin Fan. Coiling Dragon Villa Number 10, 3,300 square meters in area. Property owner, Lin Fan. 10 villas, a total of 10 villas, all of which belonged to Lin Fan. Lin Fan owned many properties such as Kainkun, Washington Palace, KM Mall, and so on. However, after seeing the stack of title deeds, he could not help but smile. The silver packets are really great, he praised. After school in the afternoon, Lin Fan walked straight to the parking lot. Since he had nothing to do at night, he planned to go to the Coiling Dragon Villa complex to take a look at the houses he had just obtained. If it were a long-distance trip, Lin Fan would drive the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. That was because G-size cars were more waste-friendly. The Coiling Dragon Villa complex was only 20 kilometers away from Jiangbei University. Therefore, Lin Fan chose to drive the Lamborghini. It was strong and fast. He stepped on the accelerator and the car shot forward. At this time, Han Tian had already arrived at the entrance of the Coiling Dragon Villa complex. Han Tian smiled and said, "Hello, I'm the manager of Lianjia. I have a client who wants to buy Villa Number 8, but the client is busy, so she asked me to take a few photos and send them to her. May I come in?" Some people thought that a real estate agent could get a large commission by just talking and signing a few contracts. In fact, they still needed to make a lot of preparations. Things like taking photos were just one of them. "All the houses in our Coiling Dragon Villa complex have been sold," the security guard said apologetically. "They're now private property, so I can't let you take photos, I'm sorry." "All sold," Han Tian was slightly taken aback. As the manager of Lianjia, she knew about all the properties in Jiangbei. The Coiling Dragon Villa complex was a newly built super-luxury villa cluster, and each villa was worth at least 150 million yuan. In such a short time they were all sold. "Why didn't I hear about it?" Han Tian asked, confused. "We were informed by our leader," the security guard said. In fact, not only was Han Tian confused, but the security guard was also confused. In the past, some real estate companies would come to visit and take photos every day. As long as they had enough qualifications, the security guards would agree to let them in. However, this afternoon, the leader suddenly informed them that all the villas had been sold and that real estate agents and other people were prohibited from entering the villas. This shocked all the security guards. For Han Tian, it was not easy to meet a customer who was interested in buying a unit at Coiling Dragon Villa complex. However, the villas had already been sold, and she had no other choice. She had no choice but to turn around. At this moment, light footsteps were heard from behind. Then a familiar figure appeared in front of her. It was Lin Fan. Han Tian looked at Lin Fan's tall figure, his well-defined facial features and his bright eyes. Her heart could not help but beat faster. Han Tian seemed to feel that she had been staring at Lin Fan for too long. Like a thief who had been discovered, she slowly lowered her head. Obviously, Lin Fan had also noticed Han Tian. He smiled and said, "Manager Han, we meet again." At this time, Han Tian also calmed down and smiled. "Yup." After a pause, she continued, "Mr. Lin, do you want to buy a house in the Coiling Dragon Villa complex?" Unfortunately, the security guard said that all the houses here have already been sold. Of course, whether it's true or not, we'll have to investigate further to know. After all, it was common for people to deliberately cover things up in the real estate industry. "That's not it, I'm just here to take a look at my houses," Lin Fan said. As he spoke, he handed a stack of property ownership certificates to the security guard and said, "Can I go in?" The security guard took a quick look, bowed, and showed the most respectful smile, saying, "Welcome home, Mr. Lin." Han Tian was completely stunned. What did she just see? It turned out that Coiling Dragon Villa complex had really been sold. The buyer was Lin Fan. "Manager Han, do you want to come in and take a look?" Lin 75 bought 10 villas, embarrassing. Han Tian knew that Lin Fan was super rich. The last time she took him to see the flat in Yika City, he paid the full amount on the spot. However, this was Coiling Dragon Villa complex. Moreover, it was the entire Coiling Dragon Villa complex. How much would that cost? 1 billion. 2 billion. Lun Fan saw that Han Tian was still standing there in a daze, so he could not help but say, "Manager Han, do you want to come in and take a look?" At this moment, Han Tian finally came back to her senses and stammered, all right, all right." After entering the gate, they could see colorful flowers, green trees, and clear water. When a cool breeze blew from afar, they felt refreshed and comfortable. Lun Fan could not help but nod his head. It was obvious that he was quite satisfied with the environment. Then Lun Fan walked toward Villa number 10, which was the outermost villa. The front yard was about 600 square meters in size. There was a green grass field, some fruit trees, and a wide swimming pool. The overall decoration style of Villa number 10 leaned toward European and American styles, making people feel like they were in a fairy tale castle. Lun Fan walked around each villa before heading out. Overall, the environment of the villas was very good. There were various styles of decoration, and Lun Fan was quite satisfied. The boss of Kaya Shaya's company had organized a group of employees to go to Tianhe to play and take photos in order to promote their corporate culture. The employees were only allowed to move around freely after taking a few photos. Kaya Shaya strolled along Tianhe Lake. When she arrived at the entrance of Coiling Dragon Villa complex, she exclaimed in admiration, "The villas here are so beautiful." A colleague who was on good terms with her said, "Of course, any one of the villas in Coiling Dragon Villa is worth hundreds of millions." Hiss. Koa Shaya could not help but gasp when she heard that. A villa worth hundreds of millions. "If I can have a house like this in my lifetime, I'll die with no regrets," Koa Shaya could not help but say. Her colleague laughed and said, "Have a house here? I don't dare to think about it. I'll be satisfied if I can go in and take a look." At this moment, Lun Fan finally finished looking at the villas and walked out. When the security guard saw this, he stood at the side respectfully from a distance. "Goodbye, Mr. Lun." Lun Fan nodded his head as a form of greeting. Koa Shaya happened to see this scene. She glanced at the bunch of keys and the property ownership certificates in Lun Fan's hands. A look of disdain appeared on her face. Last time he said that he owned an entire building in Washington Palace. Why did he bring so many keys and property ownership certificates to Coiling Dragon Villa complex now? He was clearly just a real estate agent. He was just bragging. Koa Shaya saw Lun Fan slowly walking toward her. She asked coldly, "What are you doing here?" Lun Fan could not help but frown. He was disgusted by Koa Shaya's arrogant attitude. He said indifferently, "This road doesn't seem to belong to your family, right?" When the colleague beside Koa Shaya saw that Koa Shaya knew Lun Fan, she could not help but be interested and said, "You're probably a salesman for Coiling Dragon Villa, right? Can you take us in to have a look?" "I'm not a salesman," Lun Fan shook his head. "Then how did you get in just now?" the colleague asked. "Because I own Coiling Dragon Villa," Lun Fan said. The colleague was stunned for a moment. Koa Shaya's pretty face flushed red. How embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. She had just greeted Lun Fan, but he said such big words. He said that he owned Coiling Dragon Villa. How did she get to know such a big bragger? How would her colleague view her now? When Koa Shaya thought of this, she said angrily, "Lun Fan, can't you be more honest? You're clearly a property agent. First, you rented a car for a blind date, then you said that you have a house in Washington Palace, and now you're saying that Coiling Dragon Villa is all yours. Do you think anyone will believe you? Eh? Don't you know that this will only make you more embarrassed?" After she finished speaking, she held her colleague's hand and quickly walked away. When she passed by the parking lot, she vaguely saw a subka. However, at this time, she was in a fit of anger and was not in the mood to look carefully. "What's wrong with her?" Lun Fan pouted. Han Tian, who was beside him, asked, "You rented a car for a blind date, Mr. Lun. Did you go on blind dates with her before?" "Yes," Lun Fan replied. "She probably thinks that I'm a poor loser and that my Limbaguna is rented." When Han Tian heard this, she was both jealous and angry. She was jealous that Koa Shaya had the chance to go on a blind date with Lun Fan. Why could it not be her? She was furious that Koa Shaya had rejected Lun Fan. Lun Fan was so perfect. No wonder back at Launjia she kept on mocking Lun Fan. How despicable. Eh? She'll regret it, Han Tian said seriously. Lun Fan shook his head and did not take this matter to heart. She was just a self-righteous woman. It would only be a waste of his energy to take her too seriously. Eh? After Lun Fan and Han Tian parted ways, he went to the furniture store in KM Mall. Although Coiling Dragon Villa had been renovated and the villas were furnished, it did not suit Lun Fan's taste. After spending 3 million to buy some sofas and beds, he drove the Lumbaguna and headed straight back to Coiling Dragon Villa. At this moment, Song Jae-sun was driving her Ferrari home. At that moment, she saw a Lumbaguna driving over from a distance. "A love 660 sucks, huh, isn't that Lun Fan's car?" Song Jae-sun was a little surprised. In her mind, Lun Fan's handsome face appeared and her heart could not help but beat faster. Almost instinctively, she turned around and headed toward Lun Fan. The two of them quickly arrived at the front door of Coiling Dragon Villa. Song Jae-sun asked, "Lun Fan, what are you doing here? Are you planning to buy a house here?" "I've already bought it," Lun Fan said. "Oh, which one? We're considered neighbors now so we can see each other more often in the future," Song Jae-sun said happily. "I haven't decided which one to live in yet," Lun Fan said. Lun Fan was not lying. Today he visited all 10 villas. Villa number 1, Villa number 6, and Villa number 8 were all very close to Tianha Lake. He could see the beautiful lake when he opened the windows. Villa number 1 was decorated in an ancient style, Villa number 6 was decorated in a modern style, and Villa number 8 was decorated in European and American styles. Lun Fan really had not thought about which villa to stay in. However, these words made Song Jae-sun even more suspicious. Did Lun Fan not just say that he had already bought a villa? Why did he say that he did not know which one he was staying in? It was obvious that Lun Fan had noticed the change in Song Jae-sun's expression. He explained, "I bought the entire Coiling Dragon Villa complex, so I have a total of 10 right now. I'm choosing between Villa number 1, Villa number 6, or Villa number 8 to stay in." Song Jae-sun was speechless. This happy Professor Zheng, aren't you guys going to persuade him? Even though the Song family was a powerful family in Gyeongba, and they were ranked at the top even in the Gyeong province. However, even for the Song family, it would be difficult to buy the entire Coiling Dragon Villa complex. After all, this involved 1 to 2 billion yuan. "This is what you meant by a little tight on funds?" Song Jae-sun asked curiously. Who would spend 1 or 2 billion to buy houses? Lun Fan could only laugh it off. What could he say? Could he possibly tell her that he got the houses from a silver packet? She would not believe it even if he said it. After Lun Fan asked the furniture company to place the sofas and beds in the villa, he did not move in immediately. It was too empty and lonely for a person to live in such a villa alone. After Lun Fan and Song Juk-sun parted ways, he went to Yika City. Huang Ling had flown to another city and would only be back the day after tomorrow. Only Lun Fan and Kaya Zukain were in the entire house, so they were even more unscrupulous. One had to admit that Lun Fan was very capable. Even though he had done it for 2 nights straight, he was still full of energy. That night the big bed was like a music box that sang the whole night. The next day, Jumba University. The counselor Sun Yeodong was humming a tune in the corridor, swaying as he walked. He was obviously in a good mood. When Sun Yeodong met a middle-aged professor, he said proudly, "Old Fang, what did I say? Didn't my students get a few provincial awards? One even got the national award. In 2 days, Lun Fan will go to Jungba for his dissertation. He might even be able to win the higher education cup." Since yesterday, Sun Yeodong had been saying similar things. The middle-aged professor had no way of refuting that. It was because a student really did win the national award. At that moment Lun Fan walked over. Sun Yeodong's eyes lit up. No matter how he looked at Lun Fan, he found him pleasing to the eye. "Lun Fan, are you going to the mathematics department's office?" Sun Yeodong asked. "Yes, Professor Zheng asked me to go over," Lun Fan said. Sun Yeodong nodded and said, "He'll probably discuss the Jungba oral defense with you. Your ability is outstanding, so make good use of this opportunity. Our class honor depends on you." Lun Fan's lips twitched when he heard this. He clearly remembered that Counselor Sun had said almost the same thing to him the last time. Then he convinced him to sign up for the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. He was saying such things again. Unfortunately, he was going to be disappointed this time. Lun Fan laughed noncommittally. Then he walked to the mathematics department's office. At this time Zheng Yang was sitting in his office, drinking tea and reading newspapers. The moment he caught sight of Lun Fan, his murky eyes lit up with a bright light. "Lun Fan, come and sit down, have some tea first." Even though Zheng Yang had not given Lun Fan any training, no matter what, Lun Fan won the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. This was also beneficial to him. "Thank you, Professor Zheng," Lun Fan said. After drinking a mouthful of tea, there was a hint of sweetness in the bitterness, just like the taste of life. Zheng Yang said, "Generally speaking, the list of winners for the National Award and even the Higher Education Cup has already been announced. They chose the model and thesis you submitted. The reason why I'm letting you guys go to Jungba to defend your dissertation is to check if you guys completed it on your own. So when you go to Jungba tomorrow, don't be nervous, just answer according to the model." "Professor Zheng, I'm not planning to go to Jungba," Lun Fan said. "Oh." Zheng Yang nodded with a smile, but the next moment his whole body froze. What did you just say? You're not going to the capital?" Zheng Yang's eyes widened. "Yes, I'm not," Lun Fan said. "Why, you're very talented. If you win the first prize in the country or even the Higher Education Cup, the school will give you a large scholarship. Also, this will be very beneficial for your research and even your work in the future," Zheng Yang said. "High scholarship. Was it even 1 million? Even with a 1 million yuan scholarship, it was only Lun Fan's income for a day's sleep. Postgraduate recommendation. He had come to Jungba University to experience college life. As for work, Lun Fan did not care about that at all. "Those are useless to me, I still don't want to go to Jungba," Lun Fan said. What? Zheng Yang was a little anxious and paced back and forth in the office. "Lun Fan, this is a really good opportunity. The school will pay for all your travel expenses. Just treat it as a 2-day trip to Jungba. Isn't that great? If you don't go now, you'll definitely regret it in the future." However, no matter what, Lun Fan remained unmoved. At this moment, Zheng Yang suddenly thought of the first time they met. It was the scene of Lun Fan hugging Ze Bing and Ze Ze. He continued, the National Mathematical Modeling Competition is a team competition. Even if you don't want to go to Jungba and even if you don't care about the honor and trophies, you have to consider your teammates, Zhe Bing and Zhe. They really need these. The moment he said that, Lun Fan could not help but hesitate. Zhe Bing and Zhe were only ordinary students, but their computer skills were outstanding. Moreover, they even signed up for the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Perhaps they really needed the certificate and trophy. Zheng Yang was delighted to see that his words seemed to have worked. He was prepared to be a little more ruthless with his methods. Thus, he picked up his phone and dialed the phone number of a lecturer from the School of Computer Science. After a while, Zhe Bing and Zhe slowly walked in. When they saw Lun Fan, their pretty faces immediately revealed sweet smiles. Zheng Yang cleared his throat and said, Lun Fan just said that he doesn't want to go to Jungba to participate in the oral defense. Zhe Bing, Zhe, you guys should quickly persuade him. After he finished speaking, his face was like Zhe Bing and Zhe's, revealing a smile. Then we won't go either. Zhe Bing and Zhe Zhu said in unison. Their answers were so decisive without the slightest hesitation. Zhengyang was stunned again. What was going on? This situation was completely different from what he had imagined. You guys won't go, aren't you going to persuade him? Zhang Yang hurriedly said, Zhe Bing, Zhe Zhu, you might not know this yet. If you go to Jingbei to do your oral defense, you might win the second or first prize of the country or even the higher education cup. But if you don't go, you can only win the third prize. Zhe Bing and Zhe Zhu said, okay, we won't go. Okay. They would not go. Was this reasonable? Zhang Yang was speechless. He did not know how important Lin Fan was to Zhe Bing and Zhe Zhu. There was no need to talk about the national second prize and first prize or even the higher education cup. Even the entire world could not compare to Lin Fan. If he doesn't want to go, then forget it. Zhang Yang tried to persuade them for a while, but it was useless. In the end, he had no choice but to give up. He also told Lin Fan, Zhe Bing, and Zhe Zhu to go back and think about it. Zhang Yang thought for a while and walked toward the counselor's office. He wanted Sun Yaodong to help persuade them. It was not easy for someone from Jiangbei University to win a national award in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Zhang Yang did not want to give up the opportunity to go further. Sun Yaodong, who was drinking tea, stood up when he saw Zhang Yang. Professor Zhang, you're here because Lin Fan will be going to Jingbei, right? I'll definitely approve his leave. Now, as long as Sun Yaodong mentioned Lin Fan, his face would be filled with smiles. He had really made a name for himself. A national award. That was the only national award of Jiangbei University. Lin Fan doesn't want to go to Jingbei, Zhang Yang said. As if a fishbone was stuck in Sun Yaodong's throat, his voice suddenly stopped. At this time, Zhang Jinbao was blocked by two people outside the corridor. Zhang Jinbao, didn't you say that designing a drainage system is the simplest? What's going on now? We didn't even get the provincial third prize. I've asked a lot of people, and as long as they chose the drainage system, none of them won the award, a man of medium build complained. My goal this year was to be second in the province, the short man said. The two of them were considered top students. They placed great importance on this national mathematical modeling competition. However, the result was not what they had expected. Zhang Jinbao could not help but feel a little guilty when he was interrogated by them. He looked around and saw Lin Fan, who had just returned from Zhang Yang's place. His squinted eyes immediately widened as he said, that's because those who chose the drainage system aren't good enough. Then he walked in front of Lin Fan and said, this is my roommate Lin Fan. He won the National Mathematical Modeling Award. He'll be going to Jingbei for an oral defense soon, and he might even come back with a higher education cup. Do you know which question brother Lin Fan chose? The drainage system, Zhang Jinbao answered his own question. Of course, the medium build and short man knew that Lin Fan had won a national award. This matter had long been spread. However, they had no idea which question Lin Fan had chosen. Zhang Jinbao said in the tone of an elder, don't look for the reason in others whenever there's a problem, you should reflect more on yourselves. The two of them could not help but lower their heads and walk away. Zhang Jinbao placed his hand on Lin Fan's shoulder and smiled. "Brother Lin Fan, thank you for your help." "Oh right, Brother Lin Fan, when are you going to the capital?" "I'm not going," Lin Fan said. Zhang Jinbao squinted his eyes and blinked twice. He was a little stunned. At this time, Sun Yaodong ran over in a hurry. "Lin Fan, how can you not go to Jingbei to defend your dissertation? This is a very good opportunity. Your ability is outstanding. The honor of our class depends on you," Sun Yaodong said. These words again. This time around, Lin Fan was not the only one who was speechless. Zhang Jinbao was also speechless. Sun Yaodong only knew how to spout such things to deceive people. Sun Yaodong did not realize this and was about to say something. At this moment the bell rang in the school. "Class is starting," Lin Fan said. "Counselor Sun, I'll go in first." "Hey you should think about it again," Sun Yaodong said. In the back row. "Brother Lin Fan, are you really not going to the capital to defend your dissertation?" Zhang Jinbao could not help but ask. "You're not going to Jingbei for your oral defense?" Ma Zhang was surprised. "Why?" Obviously, he knew the rules of the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. Lin Fan yawned and said, "Do you guys have to be so excited? Why do I have to go to Jingbei? Instead of going so far to answer some questions, why don't I just sleep?" "What? That was the selection for a national award. Countless people dreamed of going there. Lin Fan, he actually said that it was better to sleep." Ma Zhang opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but the old professor had already walked in with a textbook. Lin Fan listened to the old professor's lullaby-like lecture and quickly fell asleep. When Lin Fan woke up, it was mealtime. After having a leisurely lunch, he returned to the dormitory and prepared to sleep again. At this moment, the phone in his pocket vibrated. 12:00 p.m. The red packets were here. "Ding, congratulations, you've received 10 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 300 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 5 yuan." Lin Fan received a total of 40,500 yuan from the red packets today. He glanced at the red packets that he had received after spending 3 million yuan on the furniture yesterday. He muttered in his heart, 300 red packets, I'll wait a little longer. I'll gather 1,000 of them and open them together. Then he put his phone aside and fell asleep again. At the same time, in the big conference room of Jiangbei University, the professors and deans of the mathematics department were all gathered together. They discussed in low voices. They were all puzzled as to why they were suddenly informed of a meeting. As time went by, it was not only the members of the mathematics department who came, but the members of other departments too. Even the school leaders had arrived. This made everyone even more confused. It was rare for Jiangbei University to hold such a large-scale meeting, especially since the meeting was hosted by the mathematics department. The dean of the School of Mathematics, He Qian, was sitting at the head of the table. He took a sip of tea leisurely and looked at Zheng Yang, who was sitting not far away. He seemed to be a little worried and smiled. "Professor Zheng, why do you look like you have something on your mind?" "Dean He," Zheng Yang sighed. "You should know that the students from Jiangbei University won a national award in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition this year." He Qian nodded and said, "I know about that. It's Lun Fan's team, right? That's a good thing. Why do you look so unhappy?" "Lun Fan doesn't want to go to Jiangbei to take part in the oral defense for the national award." Why not? What a great opportunity this is. Does that child not know what an oral defense means? I have to persuade him. Does he have any difficulties?" The surrounding professors and leaders were all surprised and asked one after another. Zheng Yang said, "I've said everything I needed to say, but Lun Fan doesn't seem to be interested at all." He Qian, who was sitting at the head, thought for a while and said, "Since he doesn't want to go, then let's forget it." Zheng Yang's mouth was half open, and his face was full of confusion. He Qian continued, "I was already very surprised that Lun Fan participated in the mathematical modeling competition. At that time, I thought that he was probably just playing around. If we let Lun Fan do the oral defense, it would be the same as letting him bully others. It's normal for Lun Fan to choose not to go. He Zhengyang's mouth was wide open, and he was even more confused. Lun Fan's participation in the mathematical modeling competition was a surprise. He did it just for fun. Lun Fan going to defend his thesis was bullying. The dean of the School of Mathematics, He Qian, said a few words in a row that completely confused Zheng Yang. What was going on? However, He Qian was not prepared to explain any further. Shen Liang, the chancellor of Zhengba University, walked over. He Qian quickly went up to welcome him and invited Shen Liang to sit at the main seat. However, Shen Liang said, "Today is a big event for your mathematics department. You should be the one leading, so it's most suitable for you to take the main seat." After He Qian gave way for a while, he still sat on the seat as instructed. Then he looked out of the door from time to time as if he was waiting for someone, but there was no trace of that person. "Director He, when is the meeting starting?" a professor asked impatiently. "I still have a lot of things to deal with." "Yeah, I'm still waiting to start a project." He Qian saw that more and more people were dissatisfied. Finally, he cleared his throat and said, "Then let's talk about something first. Many people might not know this, but not long ago, someone from our school solved Zhou's conjecture." As soon as he said that, the professors who were still grumbling immediately stopped. Then the entire conference room was in an uproar. Some of them might not be teachers or leaders of the mathematics major. However, they knew what was Zhou's conjecture. If one could solve it, it would be a huge step forward for the entire mathematics world. This big step was actually pushed by Zhengba University. How could they not be excited? "Dean He, which professor solved Zhou's conjecture? May I ask if you were the one who solved it? Has the answer passed the review?" A series of questions shot out like cannonballs. The professors, who had always been modest and gentlemanly, were now like believers who had suddenly heard the will of God and could not help shouting. He Qian said, "When Zhou's conjecture was solved, a few professors and I jointly checked it. Then we compiled it into a paper and submitted it to the Mathematics Journal. Today, the Mathematics Journal replied to the email. The answer is correct. At the same time, the World Mathematics Organization also sent us an invitation. They hope that the people who solved Zhou's conjecture can go to Pustan and hold a large-scale report." When He Qian said this, there was a hint of unconcealable excitement in his tone. Pustan was undoubtedly one of the holy lands of mathematics. Countless mathematicians would be proud to host a report in Pustan. The large-scale report was the most high-level report. To anyone, this was an absolute honor, a supreme honor. A large-scale report in Pustan. Oh my God! Dean He, quickly tell us who's the person who solved Zhou's conjecture. He Qian said the person who solved Zhou's conjecture is Lun Fan. Whoosh! The moment he said that, there was an uproar. Zheng Yang's eyes were wide open, and he was completely stunned. What did he just hear? Lun Fan solved Zhou's conjecture. That young undergraduate student. At this moment, Zheng Yang finally understood why He Qian had said that Lun Fan's participation in the mathematical modeling competition was just for fun. He finally understood how Lun Fan would be bullying others by participating in the oral defense. For someone who solved Zhou's conjecture to participate in the mathematical modeling competition was like a high school student taking a kindergarten exam. If this was not bullying, what was? He Qian continued, "The main purpose of today's meeting is to make preparations for this report. It's to promote Zhou's conjecture. It's best to wait for Lun Fan to come over and discuss all of this." He then looked at the time and said, "Lun Fan might have been delayed by something. Everyone, please wait a moment. I'll give him a call to ask." After saying that, He Qian walked to the side and made a call. At that moment, Lun Fan was sleeping and was a little dazed. He picked up the call. "Lun Fan, did you receive the news I sent you about the meeting this morning?" He Qian said. "A meeting? What kind of meeting?" Lun Fan said in a daze. "You solved Zhou's conjecture. The World Mathematics Organization has invited you to go to Pustan and organize a large-scale report," He Qian said. He had already said that earlier. Even though he was just repeating it, he could not help but feel excited. Host a report at Puston, I'm not going. After Lun Fan finished speaking, he hung up the phone and went back to dreamland. It was not because Lun Fan was still in a daze. Even if he was awake, Lun Fan would still give the same answer. Go to Puston to host a report. In Lun Fan's heart, this could not even compare to going to Jungba for the oral defense. That was because Puston was farther away than the capital. Moreover, he had to face a bunch of questions from foreigners. He was not interested at all. After the call was hung up, He Qian was stunned for a few seconds. It was obvious that he had not reacted to Lun Fan's answer. After a while, He Qian picked up his phone and dialed Lun Fan's number again. He was prepared to explain the situation. However, the only response He Qian got was that Lun Fan's phone was switched off. He Qian was at a loss as he walked toward his seat. Director He, is Lun Fan here? A professor asked in a hurry. He could not wait to see the person who solved Zhou's conjecture. He's not going to Puston for the report, He Qian said, stunned. Silence. The entire conference room suddenly fell silent. Everyone's face was filled with disbelief. This was even more shocking than hearing that someone had solved. Hosting a report at Puston was the dream stage for almost every mathematician. However, Lin Fan actually refused to go. After a long while, someone stammered, Lin Fan is still young. Maybe he doesn't even know the significance of hosting a report at Puston, which is why he rejected it. Everyone in the meeting room nodded in agreement. Chancellor Shen Liang said, Dean Hu, you can explain to Lin Fan about the Puston report in detail later. If Lin Fan knows the meaning and benefits of the Puston report, I think he'd agree to go. Zhang Yang, who was sitting next to him, opened his mouth. He really wanted to say that Lin Fan would not agree. That was because not long ago, Zhang Yang had said something similar to Lin Fan. It was just that the Jingbei oral defense was now changed to the Puston report. Without the protagonist, the impromptu meeting was left unsettled. Then Hu Qian personally rushed to dormitory 104. When Song Yi, Zheng Jinbo, Ma Zhang and the others saw Hu Qian, their eyes all widened. He was the dean of the mathematics department. They could only see Hu Qian during the opening ceremony and some important meetings. At this moment, he had actually come to their dormitory. Hu Qian said, Lin Fan, I might not have made myself clear just now. The World Mathematics Organization would like to invite you to Puston to host a large-scale report. A large-scale report, the highest level of all the reports. At that time, you'll show the detailed solution to Zhou's conjecture to almost all famous mathematicians in the world. Currently, there are less than 10 people from Hua Nation who have held large-scale reports in Puston. When Hu Qian said this, he could not help but raise his voice. He was excited. That expression, it was as though he was the one going to Puston for a large-scale report. However, Lin Fan just yawned and said, Oh, but I don't want to go to Puston. These words were like a basin of cold water that was poured over Hu Qian's head. Ma Zhang, Song Yi, and Zheng Jinbo were also extremely surprised. Didn't you hear Hu Qian say that less than 10 people in Hua Nation have ever held such a report? This meant that the moment Lin Fan headed to Puston, he would become one of the 10. He would be one of the top 10 most awesome people. However, Lin Fan actually rejected it. Hu Qian was extremely anxious and began to persuade him again. Finally, Lin Fan said, if they really want to listen to the report, then they should come to Jiangbei. I'll host it here. If they don't want to come, then forget it. Hu Qian felt helpless. He really wanted to continue persuading Lin Fan. However, after he said this, Lin Fan walked out. At this moment, Hu Qian's phone rang with a light ringtone. It was the Chancellor Shen Liang. Did Lin Fan agree to go to Puston for the report? Shen Liang asked. Clearly, he was also very concerned about this matter. After all, it represented the honor of Jiangbei University. Lin Fan doesn't want to go, Hu Qian sighed. But he said that if they want to listen to the report, they can come to Jiangbei. There was a moment of silence on the phone. After a while, Shen Liang said, let's reply to the World Mathematics Organization about Lin Fan's idea first. If they agree, it might not be a bad thing for us. Hu Chuan naturally understood what Shen Liang meant. However, how difficult would it be to get so many mathematicians to come to Jiangbei? I'll try to contact the World Mathematics Organization, Hu Chuan said. Eh? Lin Fan seemed to be a little annoyed by Jiangbei University's aggressive persuasion. He got into his Lamborghini and headed toward Yiqi City. At this moment in Yiqi City, room 2501. Huang Ling's beautiful eyes were red, and tears kept falling. Huang Ling was supposed to fly to Japan today. However, in the VIP lounge, a Japanese man who was eating ice cream accidentally bumped into her. This was not Huang Ling's responsibility. As an air stewardess, she apologized profusely and carefully cleaned the other party's clothes. At that time, the Japanese man was all smiles and expressed their understanding. However, after Huang Ling left, the Japanese went to the airline's leader and complained about her. The leader did not distinguish between right and wrong and severely criticized Huang Ling. Then, in order to satisfy the Japanese, the leader canceled Huang Ling's flight work and deducted 10% of her bonus this month. Qiu Ziqian gently patted Huang Ling's back and said, "That Japanese man is so sinister." Huang Ling calmed down first. "Huang Ling, why don't you resign as well?" she added after a pause. "Resign?" Huang Ling seemed to have thought of something and her entire face blushed. Qiu Ziqian nodded. "I can see that you have feelings for Lin Fan. Women want to get married in order to live a happy life. Perhaps in the future, you'll find someone who likes you very much and is very motivated. One day, he'll also have enough money to make you happy. However, before that time comes, I'm afraid we'll already be old and frail. Can you guarantee that the man won't look for anyone else?" Qiu Ziqian held Huang Ling's hand and spoke for a long time. "Huang Ling, what do you think?" she asked. Huang Ling bit her lower lip. After hesitating for a long time, she finally nodded her head. Creak creak. At this moment the door was pushed open. Lin Fan walked in. Huang Ling, Qiu Ziqian, and Lin Fan looked at each other. As if she had done something bad, Huang Ling's face instantly turned red. Qiu Ziqian did not care about that. She pulled Huang Ling along and walked toward Lin Fan. She placed Huang Ling's hand into Lin Fan's. It was nighttime. A phone call from Yan City. Qiu Ziqian is sobbing. The next day, on the white bed there was a touch of red. As usual, Qiu Ziqian got up early and prepared a sumptuous breakfast. Just days ago, Huang Ling would wake up very early each time. However, she often waited for Lin Fan to leave before coming out. Today, Huang Ling came to the living room with Lin Fan. Lin Fan placed an egg into Huang Ling's bowl and said, "You worked hard yesterday, so you should nourish yourself." Huang Ling seemed to have thought of something and her face blushed. Then she almost buried her entire head into her bowl. Seeing this, Qiu Ziqian could not help but laugh. After Lin Fan finished the entire bowl of noodles, he let out a burp. He picked up his phone and started fiddling with it. Immediately after, Huang Ling's phone rang with a crisp sound. WeChat transfer 1 million yuan. Huang Ling's heart thumped wildly and she was stunned. She had personally seen Lin Fan transfer $1 million to Qiu Ziqian. When she decided to become Lin Fan's woman, she thought of receiving similar treatment. However, now that she had actually obtained the money, she could not help but be extremely surprised. Lin Fan smiled. "If you don't have enough, you can ask me for more." "It's enough," Huang Ling quickly replied. "It's enough." At that moment, Ke Zukoin's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and picked up the call. "Mom, you're calling so early. Have you had breakfast?" Ke Zukoin asked. On the phone, Wen Kui did not answer Ke Zukoin's question. Instead, she asked directly, "Zukoin, do you have 2 million? "Mom, what do you need so much money for?" Ke Zukoin asked, frowning. "Your father has been captured and one of his legs has been broken. If we don't pay the ransom, all his limbs will be broken." Wen Kui's voice gradually became hoarse as she spoke and she could not help but sob. "What? How did this happen?" Ke Zukoin's heart ached and she sniffled. "Mom, I'll go back right away." Children were the flesh and blood of their parents. Were parents also not the people that their children cared about the most? As Lun Fan was sitting beside her, he easily heard the entire conversation between the two. He held Kazuko-in's slender waist and said, "I'll go home with you." Kazuko-in nodded hesitantly. She did not want to trouble Lun Fan. However, Lun Fan was probably the only one who could solve her problem for her. Huang Ling, who was sitting opposite him, did not hear what had happened clearly. However, when she saw Kazuko-in's sad face, she knew that something big had happened. Lun Fan will definitely be able to help you solve it, don't be sad. Do you need me to go with you? She asked after a pause. I drove a Lumbaguna here yesterday, it can't fit 3 people, you can rest at home today, Lun Fan said. Alright, Huang Ling said. In fact, Huang Ling did not really want to follow them. She did not know how to face Kazuko-in's parents. After Lun Fan and Kazuko-in got into the car, Lun Fan stepped on the gas and sped forward. Kazuko-in's hometown was located in Yin City of Jiang Province, about 300 kilometers north of Li River. 2.5 hours later, a dilapidated old street gradually appeared in their field of vision. Kazuko-in's house was right there. In a single-story house that was more than 10 years old, a woman who looked somewhat similar to Kazuko-in but had gone through a lot was standing at the door and looking outside. When she saw Kazuko-in come out of a cool subkika, her wrinkled old face showed a touch of excitement. "Zuko-in, you're finally back," Wang Hui shouted. Then she looked at Lun Fan and asked with uncertainty, "Is he your boyfriend?" Kazuko-in was about to explain when Lun Fan answered, "Yes, Aunt, I'm Zuko-in's boyfriend Lun Fan." Kazuko-in's heart warmed when she heard that. Wang Hui's cloudy eyes lit up. "Young man, how long have you known Zuko-in?" she asked. "Mom, this isn't the time to ask questions," Kazuko-in said with a frown. "Tell me quickly, why is Dad being detained? Why is his leg broken?" Wang Hui's eyes turned red as she spoke. "I don't know what happened to your father yesterday. He went to an antique shop and accidentally broke an antique. The other party wanted him to pay, but he couldn't afford it. Then they broke his leg. After that, someone called and said that if he didn't pay the money, they would break his limbs. What's he going to do in the future without his limbs? Zuko and Lun Fan, you guys have to save him." As Wang Hui spoke, her turbid tears kept flowing out as if a tap had been turned on. "Aunt, don't worry, we'll go and save Uncle now," Lun Fan comforted her. "Besides, medical technology is so advanced now, Uncle's leg can definitely be cured." After consoling her for a while, Lun Fan and Kazuko-in got back into the Lumbaguna and headed to the place Wang Hui had told them about. At the same time, in Bree's Pavilion antique shop, a bald man with golden teeth was sitting with his legs crossed, munching on melon seeds and humming a tune leisurely. Boom! At this time, a roar suddenly came from the distance. Then the cool-looking Lumbaguna stopped in front of the shop. When the bald man saw this, his squinted eyes lit up slightly and he quickly got up to greet them. "Welcome to Bree's Pavilion, we have things from all dynasties. Do you need me to introduce some items to you?" "You're detaining someone here, right?" Lun Fan said coldly. "Oh, you're here to redeem someone?" The enthusiasm on the bald man's face immediately faded. Then he sat back on the chair and crossed his legs. "Who is he to you guys?" the bald man said unhurriedly as he cracked a melon seed. "He's my dad," Kazuko-in said. "All right," the bald man said. "When your dad saw the blue and white porcelain vase from the Song dynasty in our shop yesterday, he threw it to the ground. You have to compensate for the damage. Your dad doesn't have money, so we had no choice but to detain him. If you want to take your dad away, it's easy. 2 million, hand over the money and we'll hand you the person." "You're extorting me," Kazuko-in shouted. "Extortion, ha, little girl, don't talk nonsense," the bald man said. "Aren't you afraid that we'll call the police and have them arrest you?" Kazuko-in yelled. "Hurry up and call them. When the time comes, will they be arresting you or me?" the bald man sneered. "You..." Kazuko-in wanted to say something, but Lun Fan said, 2 million, right, we'll pay. After saying that, Lun Fan took out a bank card. "You're the most sensible one," the bald man laughed. He grinned, revealing his shiny golden teeth. He took the bank card and swiped it on the POS system. "I won't attack if I'm not attacked, but if I'm attacked, I'll make sure I'll give it back to you double." Beep. A soft sound rang out. The card was swiped successfully. The bald man looked at the 2 million yuan that was quickly transferred to his account, and his big golden teeth glowed in his mouth. His whole face was full of smiles. "Can you let my dad go now?" Kazuko-in asked. "All right," the bald man replied casually. Then he picked up his phone and dialed a number: "Send over the person who was detained yesterday." After that he hung up the phone. Not long after, two fierce-looking men with tattoos all over their bodies carried a middle-aged man who had experienced many vicissitudes of life and slowly walked over. When Kazuko-in saw this, her eyes turned red and crystal tears fell like rain. "Dad," Kazuko-in's voice was hoarse. Zuzuka-in Kayu raised his head with difficulty and said weakly. Obviously, he had been tortured for the past 2 days. Kazuko-in hurriedly stepped forward to support Kayu, who had lost the support of his left leg. "Dad, are you okay?" "Yeah. I am fine," Kayu said. Looking at Kayu's miserable state, Lun Fan's face turned cold. "We've finally resolved the matter of the broken antique," he said. "Now it's time to solve the problem of the broken leg." As soon as he said that, the atmosphere immediately became extremely heavy. In the air there was a faint violent aura. The bald man was not scared. He said coldly, "Kid, what do you mean?" The two tattooed men could feel that Lun Fan was not willing to give up. They took a step forward. They seemed to be saying, "Kid, think carefully before you speak." However, Lun Fan ignored them and continued, "I've always been a person who doesn't offend others if they don't offend me, but if anyone offends me, I'll pay them back double." After saying these words, Lun Fan suddenly took a step forward. His fists were like the wind, and his feet were like arrows. The two tattooed men did not even have time to react before they fell to the ground, unconscious. Lun Fan looked like he had just knocked down two flies. His expression did not change as he continued to walk forward. Seeing this, the bald man's eyes could not help but widen. He kept retreating and shouted, "You, don't come over, my cousin is Tiger Li Zungnung." He thought that Lun Fan would be scared by this name. However, the result was obviously going to disappoint him. "Is that so?" Lun Fan said calmly. At the same time, he took another step forward and appeared in front of the bald man. "Greg." Lun Fan's leg landed on the bald man's left leg. "Ugh." Instantly, the whole antique shop was filled with a pig-like scream. However, it was not over yet. Rather, it was only the beginning. Lun Fan raised his leg and kicked once more. "Greg." The bald man's right leg also made a soft sound. "Greg." Then it was his left hand. "Greg." Finally, it was his right hand. The bald man fell to the ground, completely unconscious. Cruel and violent. He did not hold back at all. Kazuka-in saw it all. However, she was not afraid at all. His heart was filled with gratitude and joy. That was because Lun Fan had only attacked for her sake. Moreover, his movements were so natural and handsome. Kazuka-in memorized Lun Fan's every move in her heart. As she thought back, her heart started to beat faster. "Zuko-in, let's bring Uncle back first," Lun Fan said. Oh, all right," Kazuka-in quickly responded. Not long after, the three of them returned home. When Wang Hui saw Kayu return, she was extremely excited. However, after seeing the injury on his leg, his eyes turned red again. "Don't worry," Kayu consoled her, "I'm fine." Yes, yes," Wang Hui wiped her eyes and nodded. "You must be hungry. I've made some millet congee. I'll bring you a bowl now." Kayu was indeed a little hungry. He quickly gobbled down a bowl of millet congee. Kazuko-in asked, "Dad, why did you go to that antique shop, and you even broke that antique?" At the mention of this, Kayu's face was filled with fear. "Yesterday, after I got off work, I got into the wrong car for some reason. After coming out and taking a few steps, I tripped and broke a vase." The owner immediately rushed out and said that it was an antique from the Song dynasty. He asked me to pay 2 million yuan. How could I have that much money? After that, they captured me and they even hit my leg. After Kayu finished speaking, he could not help but shiver. Obviously, he still had some lingering fear. Kazuko-in's eyes reddened as she shouted, "These people are simply disgraceful and tyrannical. Why haven't they been caught?" In Kazukoin's eyes, they were definitely repeat offenders. Otherwise they would not be so unscrupulous. When this matter was brought up, Kyu could not help but let out a long sigh. Young man, you were a little reckless just now, you shouldn't have hit that boss. If he's really Tiger Li's cousin, then we're in trouble. Tiger Li, Wenkui asked nervously, who's Tiger Li? Kyu explained, in the past, I heard people talk about Tiger Li, he's the boss of our area, he has hundreds of people under him. If he knows that we beat up his cousin, then once he comes to our door. Kyu's forehead was covered in a cold sweat. The workers liked to brag when they were free at work. They talked a lot about Tiger Li burning, killing, robbing, and committing all kinds of evil. In the minds of Kyu and many other workers, Tiger Li was a terrible devil. Wang Hui said in a panic, what do we do now? Dad, Mom, don't worry, Kyazuka-in said, I don't believe that there's no law in this world. Kyu sighed, there are indeed laws, but can the law protect us 24 hours a day and night? At most we'll just move, Kyazuka-in called out. Kyu and Wang Hui sighed again. This was their home, their roots. They did not want to leave unless they had no other choice. Uncle, Aunt, don't worry, I promise that Tiger Li won't dare to harass you, Lun Fan said. Kyu and Wang Hui nodded without saying anything. However, their two old faces were still full of worry. Kazuka-in completely believed Lun Fan's words. In her heart, Lun Fan was an omnipotent god. Since he had said so, he would definitely be able to do it. Uncle, let's treat your leg first, Lun Fan continued. Please drink a bottle of this medicine. After saying that, Lun Fan spent 10 million yuan in the system to buy the bottle of medicine. Kyu's mind was a mess. He was not in the mood to ask what kind of medicine it was, so he drank it directly. Cure trouble at the door. When the medicine entered his mouth, it did not have any taste. It was completely like mineral water. However, it did not take long for Kyu's body to slowly heat up. Especially his broken left leg, it was like it was soaking in a hot spring, it felt very comfortable. As time passed, Kyu's left leg, which had lost all feeling, started to sway involuntarily. Then Kyu realized that he could actually control his left leg. He could even stand up. Kyu took a few steps around the living room, his old face full of disbelief. Old Kyu, is your leg better? Wang Hui was pleasantly surprised. I don't know, Kyu was still a little confused. It took 100 days to recover from a serious injury. Moreover, Kyu's left leg had been completely broken. Recovery would not be a matter of 100 days. Kyu was even prepared to never be able to use his left leg for the rest of his life. However, in such a short time, he could stand up again. Kazuka was so happy that she cried. Lun Fan, thank you. She understood that all of this was because of Lun Fan. It was the small bottle of medicine that Lun Fan had just given her father. Kyu Zikian did not know what the medicine was, so she did not ask. However, in such a short period of time, it had cured her father's left leg. Kyu Zikian understood that it was an extremely precious item. To think that Lin Fan would give such a precious item to her father without any hesitation. Kyu Zikian's heart had completely melted. Instantly, a crisp voice rang out in Lin Fan's mind. Ding, charming aura triggered an unforgettable memory. Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of truth to observe Kyu Zikian. Face value 96. Favorability 96. At this moment, Kyu and Wang Hui also reacted. Thank you, Lin Fan. Thank you. Lin Fan said, you guys don't have to be so polite, this is what I should do. Now Kyu had not only been brought back safely, but his left leg had completely recovered. Kyu Zikian's family was overjoyed. To celebrate, Wang Hui prepared a sumptuous lunch. Everyone was very satisfied with the food. Wang Hui took the washed clothes outside to dry. 1, 2, 3. A total of 4 black cars and a van suddenly stopped at the entrance. Then, a dozen men with different hair colors and tattoos on their arms got out of the cars. In the van there was a pale, bald man. Seeing this, Wang Hui's heart clenched. She could not be bothered to hang the clothes to dry anymore and hurriedly ran inside. No, this is bad, those bad guys are here, Wang Hui shouted. Qiu Yu, who had been smiling just now, instantly turned pale. I started this, I'll go talk to them, Qiu Yu said in a trembling voice. Although he was also very afraid, he had to stand up for the sake of his family. Uncle Aunt, don't worry, leave this to me, Lin Fan said. Qiu Ziqian held onto Lin Fan's hand worriedly. After all, there were more than a dozen people outside. Lin Fan patted Qiu Ziqian's little hand and said, Don't worry, I'm right here. Yes, yes, Qiu Ziqian nodded. Eh? Then Lin Fan strode out. Qiu Yu and Wang Hui followed closely behind. At this moment, the bald man in the van was carried out. When he saw Lin Fan and the others, a ferocious look appeared on his pale face. He shouted, See cousin, it's them. The man with sideburns looked at Lin Fan and the rest coldly. He asked, Which gang are you guys from? Li Xingning was not a reckless person considering that he was able to get to his current position. He was prepared to find out about Lin Fan and the others before making plans. You don't deserve to know, Lin Fan said calmly. Li Xingning was completely infuriated by this. The other party had first broken his cousin's limbs. Now he was humiliating him in front of everyone. It was simply he was too arrogant. Li Xingning thought fiercely in his heart, no matter who he is, he must die today. Damn it, you're looking for death, beat him up, Li Xingning shouted sternly. The men with tattoos either twisted their necks or took out steel pipes from their cars. They were like a group of demons as they walked toward Lin Fan. Qiu Ziqian, Qiu Yu, and Wang Hui were all flustered. Especially Qiu Yu and Wang Hui, their bodies trembled and they could barely stand. On the other hand, Lin Fan's expression remained the same as if the tattooed men did not exist at all. At this moment, the roar of an engine was heard in the distance. In a fiery red Ferrari convertible, Wan Lang was driving a hot beauty through the old street. It was extremely leisurely and pleasant. When the Ferrari wanted to drive past Qiu Ziqian's house, the road was blocked by 4 cars. The beautiful girl next to him wrinkled her nose and asked, What's with the traffic jam? Honk honk. Wan Lang even pressed the horn a few times. Then he looked around. Soon, his gaze fell on a group of young men who were covered in tattoos not far away. The next moment, Wan Lang's pupils suddenly shrank. He hurriedly opened the car door and jogged forward. That was because he saw Lin Fan. Brother Fan, I didn't expect to meet you here, Wan Lang called out in an extremely respectful tone. It had to be said that these second-generation nouveau rich were definitely much smarter than ordinary people. One had to know. Not long ago, Lin Fan had even provoked Wan Lang at Xinyu restaurant. The two of them had become enemies. Now Lin Fan was surrounded by a group of people. If it were an ordinary person, they would probably hide at the side and clap their hands. However, Wan Lang did not hesitate at all. He immediately ran out and greeted Lin Fan respectfully. It was because Wan Lang still clearly remembered how close the Zhou family's old master, Zhou Guotao, was to Lin Fan. After that, Wan Lang even heard that Lin Fan had saved old Master Zhou's life. All of this showed that he had to build a good relationship with Lin Fan. Yan City was the car capital of Jiang Province, and the Wan family had some properties here. 2 days ago, Wan Lang came to Yan City as the general manager to deal with some matters, and then he took a beautiful woman out to play. Lin Fan nodded at Wan Lang as a form of greeting. Although it was just a simple nod, it made Wan Lang extremely happy. This scene was all seen by Li Xingning, who was standing not far away. The young master of the Wan family was so respectful to the young man. Li Xingning's heart tightened, and a bad feeling surged up madly. After a long while, he came back to his senses and looked at the tattooed men who were still walking toward Lin Fan. Stop, he shouted, all of you stop. 83, who was he exactly? Hearing this, the tattooed men all stopped and looked at Li Xingning with puzzled eyes. Li Xingning did not care much and quickly walked in front of Wan Lang. He bowed and said in a respectful tone, Hello, President Wan. In front of ordinary people, Li Xingning was a devil that could not be provoked. However, in front of Wan Lang, Li Xingning was like the most humble servant. Who are you? Wan Lang glanced at him and asked. I'm Li Xingning, Li Xingning said, The night before yesterday at Dahua Hotel I even gave you a toast. A few days ago when Li Xingning learned that Dahua Hotel was going to hold an upper-class banquet, he spent a lot of effort to get an admission ticket. Li Xingning was just an insignificant person at the banquet. Wan Lang was the center of attention. Countless people swarmed Wan Lang and toasted him. Li Xingning also followed the crowd and toasted. From there, he learned of Wan Lang's identity. Wan Lang casually replied, "Oh." Then he turned his gaze back to Lin Fan and said, "Brother Lin Fan, when did you come to Yan City? Why didn't you tell me? If I had known, I would have gone to meet you early in the morning." "I don't dare to let you, young Master Wan, welcome me," Lin Fan said calmly. "Brother Lin Fan, aren't you slapping me in the face with your words?" Wan Lung hurriedly said. Then Wan Lung seemed to remember the tattooed men not far away and said, "Oh right, Brother Lun Fan, did you run into some trouble?" Lun Fan said, "Trouble, not really. It's just that Tiger Li's cousin broke my girlfriend's father's leg. After that, Tiger Li found people to teach me a lesson. He broke the leg of Lun Fan's girlfriend's father. He even wanted to teach Lun Fan a lesson. How dare he? How bold!" Wan Lung's expression suddenly changed. He turned around and stared at Li Zhengneng like a furious King Kong. At this moment, Li Zhengneng's heart was beating wildly as if it had been hit by a drum. A thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. "Why, young Master Wan, this?" However, without waiting for Li Zhengneng's explanation, Wan Lung ruthlessly kicked him in the stomach. Caught off guard, Li Zhengneng's entire body was directly kicked to the ground, and he curled up into a ball. Seeing this, the faces of the tattooed men behind him all changed. They raised their steel pipes and looked like they were going to teach Wan Lung a lesson. Li Zhengneng hurriedly covered his stomach and shouted in a panic, "Don't move, don't move." Then Li Zhengneng stood up with difficulty, bent over and said in pain, "Young Master Fan and I, young Master Fan, misunderstood." Even though Li Zhengneng had been beaten, he did not have any thoughts of revenge. In fact, he had to be even more careful to please the two men in front of him. He knew that he could not afford to offend the other party. He could let his men beat these guys up. However, what would happen after the fight? After that, he would completely disappear from this world. Of Istarusk Sukha, this misunderstanding, Wan Lung kicked Li Zhengneng to the ground again. Back in Zhengba, Wan Lung had already offended Lun Fan. Now he finally had the chance to befriend Lun Fan. Wan Lung absolutely would not allow anyone to destroy this chance. What if Lin Fan thought that he had a good relationship with him? What if he thought that he was the one who hired these people to deal with his girlfriend's father? The consequences, they were simply terrifying. Thus Wan Lang did not hold back at all. Li Xingning held his stomach and rolled on the ground in pain. Wan Lang turned around and said, "Brother Lin Fan, how do you think we should handle this? I'll definitely help you get it done properly." Li Xingning quickly endured the pain and lay on the ground. He kept kowtowing to Lin Fan. "Brother Lin Fan, no, young Master Fan, I'm sorry, I didn't discipline my cousin well." Li Xingning, right? Lin Fan squatted down and asked. "Eh?" Yes, Li Xingning said hurriedly. "In the future, you'll have to discipline him well. If something similar happens again, it won't end well. Do you understand?" Lin Fan said. "I understand, thank you, young Master Fan, thank you, young Master Fan," Li Xingning kowtowed again. "All right, take your people and get lost," Lin Fan said. Yes, thank you, young Master Fan. Goodbye, young Master Fan. Goodbye, young Master Wan." After Li Xingning finished speaking, he rolled and crawled away quickly. Very quickly, the old street that was originally a little congested became clear again. Wan Lang said, "Brother Lin Fan, it's rare for you to come to Yan City. I wonder if I'll have the chance to treat you to dinner tonight. I'll do my part as the host." Even without Wan Lang, Lin Fan could have easily dealt with the tattooed men. However, no matter what, Wan Lang had done his part. He still had to show him some face. "All right, you decide on the place then," Lin Fan nodded. "Eh? All right, Wan Lang said happily. Wan Lang also understood that Lin Fan had to deal with some matters with his girlfriend's family. In addition, he had also arranged to have a meal together. After exchanging a few more words, he quickly left. Even now, Qiu Yu and Wang Hui were still a little stunned. The terrifying Tiger Li was kicked twice just like that. Then he had to kowtow to Lin Fan and admit his mistakes. What kind of a boyfriend had their daughter found? On the other hand, Qiu Ziqian's eyes were filled with little stars. Uncle Aunt, it's fine now, let's go in, Lin Fan said with a smile. Alright, let's go in. Qiu Yu and Wang Hui finally reacted and responded. In the blink of an eye, the sun was setting. The exterior of Dahua Hotel was like a huge arch. It was brightly lit at night and was a landmark building in Yan City. At this moment, Wan Lang was already waiting at the entrance of Dahua Hotel. When he saw a Lamborghini coming from a distance, he quickly went over to greet the driver. Lin Fan held Qiu Ziqian's hand and slowly walked out of the car. Then, a valet took the car keys and quickly drove the car to the parking lot. You've been waiting for a long time, right? Lin Fan asked. No, I've only been here for a while, Wan Lang said. He exclaimed, Brother Lin Fan, you have such good taste, sister-in-law is so beautiful. Young Master Wan, you're too good at complimenting people, Qiu Ziqian laughed. I'm not complimenting anyone, it's the truth. By the way, sister-in-law, don't call me young Master Wan. It's too distant, you can just call me Lil Wan Lang or Wan Lang, both are fine, Wan Lang said. Then I'll call you by your name, Qiu Ziqian said. All right, Brother Lin Fan, sister-in-law, shall we go in? Wan Lang said. Lin Fan nodded his head. Just like that, the three of them slowly walked into Dahua Hotel under the gazes of many people in the distance. Even the young master of the Wan family had to personally welcome the guy at the door. Who was he? There was another big shot in Yan City. After Lin Fan and the other two entered room 666, the waiter started to serve the dishes. Australian lobster, top-grade Wagyu beef, papaya-stewed snow toad, top-grade abalone. Many exquisite dishes quickly filled the entire table. Then the waiter opened a bottle of 1982 Lafite. Wan Lang raised his wine glass and said, Brother Lin Fan, welcome to Yan City. Lin Fan raised his glass and clinked it lightly. Wan Lang finished it in one gulp. Then he poured himself another glass and said, Sister-in-law, I wish you'll get younger and more beautiful. Thank you, Qiu Ziqian said with a smile. After a few glasses of wine, the atmosphere in the room became more lively, and the three of them were very happy. After the meal, Lin Fan and Qiu Ziqian did not go home. Instead, they booked a presidential suite at Dahua Hotel. Perhaps it was because they had been in the car for the whole day, but Qiu Ziqian worked out more than usual. She went up and down, tireless. The two people did not get any sleep. The next day, when the sun was high in the sky, Qiu Ziqian was still lying lazily on the bed like a lazy cat. Lin Fan did not disturb her, he picked up his phone. As usual, there was an unread message on the screen. Notice from China Merchant Bank, 1,430,000 yuan was deposited into your account. Name Lin Fan. Level LV5. Ding, system upgraded to level 5. Level 5 reward, 20 yuan for every breath, 20 yuan for every second of sleep, and 20 yuan for every step taken. Rewards are distributed at 12 a.m. daily. Upgrade cost, 6.34 million, 50 million, not including gifts and gambling. In addition, all items obtained from the system are prohibited from being traded. Skills, professional driving skills, charming aura, 5% chance to trigger love at first sight and unforgettable love, violent aesthetics, drinking gentleman, absolute focus, 10% chance to trigger a flash of inspiration. Professional piloting skills, professional go skills, energy shield. Funds, 150.2 million. Then Lin Fan's eyes fell on the 500 red packets on his phone. He muttered in his heart, I should be able to gather 1,000 in a few days. At that moment, Qiu Ziqian slowly opened her beautiful eyes. She tried her best to stretch her body before sitting up slowly. You must be tired from yesterday, aren't you going to rest? Lin Fan asked. It's fine, I'm already well rested, Qiu Ziqian said. After breakfast, the two of them drove the Lamborghini back to the old street. Just as he got out of the car, Lin Fan's phone vibrated. 12:00 p.m. The red packets were here. Ding, congratulations, you've received 10,000 yuan. Ding, congratulations, you've received 500 yuan. Eh? Ding, congratulations, you've obtained the skill perfume expert. Ding, congratulations, you've received 3 yuan. Today, Lin Fan earned a total of 40,503 yuan. He immediately turned his attention to perfume expert. Perfume expert, a single whiff can tell 100 cents. As a gentleman, how can you not understand perfume? You'll understand a perfume's formula, production, and classification. It can also increase infinite charm. Perfume. Lun Fan's face was filled with doubt. Then he took a light breath and smelled the fragrance on Ke Zukoin's body. Jasmine, rose, lily. It's a perfume made by drying, crushing, filtering, and other steps. The entire process of making the perfume appeared in Lun Fan's mind like a scene from a movie. It was extremely magical. At this time, Li Zhengneng jogged over from a distance. Young Master Fan, I'm really sorry for yesterday, he bowed and said respectfully. This card contains the 2 million yuan you paid yesterday, as well as some compensation for uncle and aunt's physical and mental losses. Lun Fan did not reject and kept the card. Seeing this, Li Zhengneng heaved a long sigh of relief. Even though Lun Fan had already let him off yesterday. However, his heart was a mess, and he could not sleep for the whole night. Li Zhengneng was very clear that if a young master like Lun Fan wanted to deal with him, he probably only needed to move his fingers. Therefore, he had been waiting in the alley in the distance since early morning, hoping to make amends again. Now that Lun Fan had accepted his bank card, Li Zhengneng was completely at ease. Young Master Fan, I won't disturb you any longer. After Li Zhengneng finished speaking, he bent down and quickly left. At this moment, Wen Hui heard the sounds and walked out slowly. She said happily, Lun Fan, Zukoin, you guys are back. Are you hungry? I'll go cook for you now. Aunt, there's no need to trouble yourself, we've already eaten, Lun Fan said. Then let's go in and have some tea, Wen Hui said. The tea leaves were planted by Wen Hui herself and it was very fragrant. Lun Fan drank 2 big cups of it and was extremely satisfied. Zukoin, Lun Fan, you guys aren't young anymore. Have you considered when to get married? Wen Hui asked. Ke Zukoin's heart tightened. Without waiting for Lun Fan's reply, she quickly said, Mom, we won't get married. She was afraid that Lun Fan would be put in a difficult position if her parents urged her to get married. If this caused Lun Fan to distance himself from her, she would truly regret it. This, I see, Wen Hui said with some regret. At that moment, Lun Fan's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID before picking up the call. Dean He, what's the matter? Lun Fan asked. Lun Fan, didn't you say you didn't want to go to Pustan to do the report? We've contacted the World Mathematics Organization and are preparing to hold a report in Jeongba. When do you think it's convenient? He Qian asked. In the next few days, Lun Fan said. Sure, Dean He said after thinking for a while. After hanging up, Lun Fan saw that it was getting late. Uncle Aunt will be going back to Jeongba first, he said. You must have something to do, we won't keep you. Come to Yin City often if you have the chance, Ke Yu said. Lun Fan nodded and took out the bank card that Li Zhengneng had just given him. Uncle Aunt, you guys take this, Lun Fan said. We can't accept it, Ke Yu said. Yeah, how can we take your money? Wen Hui quickly followed. Lun Fan smiled. You've misunderstood, this is the compensation that Li Zhengneng just sent over. Ke Yu and Wen Hui still waved their hands, indicating their refusal. Lun Fan was helpless. He could only say to Ke Zukoin, you should help to persuade them too. Mom, Dad, just accept it, Ke Zukoin said. When the two of them heard their child say the same things, they hesitated for a moment before accepting the card. After Lun Fan and Ke Zukoin left. Honey, how much money do you think is in this card? Ke Yu asked. How would I know? Let's go take a look, Wen Hui said. Then the two of them walked to the ATM machine not far away. The next moment the two of them opened their mouths wide. That was because there was a total of 5 million yuan in the card. They would never have hoped to get so much money in their lifetime. They had never seen such an astronomical figure. At the venue of the National Mathematical Modeling Competition's oral defense in Jeongbuk. The geniuses from Hyeokgung University, Capital University, Husheng University, and many other top universities in the country gathered together to intensely defend their dissertation. The judges and professors, sitting above either nodded or pondered. Under the anticipation of all the genius students, the awards were announced one by one. The third national prize goes to Zheng Kung of Husheng University, Yezhun, Tanmaja. The second national prize goes to Chun Zheun, Song Zulong, and Li Fen from the University of Science and Technology. The first national prize goes to Hyeokgung University's Na Junjiang, Pan Duffa, Huang Zhuqiang. Winners of the Higher Education Cup are Lun Fan, Zhe Bing, and Zhe Zhe from Jeongbuk University. As the list of winners was released, some people were happy while others sighed. When the winners of the Higher Education Cup were revealed, everyone revealed a look of disbelief. Jeongbuk University was indeed a top university. However, their mathematics had always been at the bottom of the top universities. In the previous mathematical modeling competitions, they rarely even won national awards. This time, they had actually won the Higher Education Cup. Many people looked around, trying to find Lun Fan and the others, but to no avail. "There's no need to look for them," someone said. "The people from Jeongbuk University are not here." What? They didn't come for the oral defense and directly won the Higher Education Cup? Could there be a conspiracy behind this? The people around immediately started shouting. "I heard that the person named Lun Fan solved Zhou's conjecture and is going to hold a report at Jeongbuk University, so he has no time for the oral defense," another person said in a low voice. Zhou's conjecture hiss. Some people were extremely surprised. Na Junjiang of Hyeokgung University snorted. "So what if he solved Zhou's conjecture? What does this have to do with mathematical modeling? What's more, he might not have solved Zhou's conjecture." The Higher Education Cup of the mathematical modeling competition had always been won by Hyeokgung University and Capital University. This year, Na Junjiang made a lot of preparations, and his goal was to win the Higher Education Cup. However, he only won the first prize. How could he not be angry? However, there were times when anger was of no use. At that moment, Lun Fan was driving his Limba toward Jeongbuk. His phone suddenly rang. Lun Fan answered the call in his car. "Lun Fan, I have good news for you, in regards to the National Mathematical Modeling Competition. You won the Higher Education Cup." Hu Chuan's extremely excited voice came from the phone. Qiu Ziqian, who was beside him, was surprised. Even though she did not major in mathematics and it had been 2 years since she graduated, Qiu Ziqian had also heard of the famous Higher Education Cup. That was one of the highest awards in the mathematics department. Lin Fan was handsome, rich, and loyal. Now she found out that he was a top student. Heavens! What kind of godlike man had she found? Qiu Ziqian looked at Lin Fan with her beautiful eyes, which were full of emotion. In response to Hu Chuan's words, Lin Fan only said, "Oh." In truth, he had no interest in the Higher Education Cup. Otherwise, Lin Fan would not have refused to go to Jingbei. When Hu Chuan heard Lin Fan's reply, he was at a loss for words. That was the Higher Education Cup. Yet he gave such a casual response. Did he have to be so calm? However, Hu Chuan quickly thought about how Lin Fan had solved Zhou's conjecture and felt relieved. Lu Zhou coughed and said, "Oh yeah, we contacted the World Mathematics Organization. We're going to hold the report this Saturday. If you have time in the next few days, do some preparations." "All right," Lin Fan replied casually. It was already nighttime when they returned to Jeongbei. Yiki City, room 2501. Huang Ling was watching TV in the living room. She was drowsy and bored. Creak creak. At this moment the door slowly opened. When Huang Ling saw Lin Fan and Qiu Ziqian, she immediately perked up. "Ziqian, has your family's problem been resolved?" she asked. "It's settled, it's all thanks to you, darling," Qiu Ziqian said. As she spoke, she seemed to recall the scene of Lin Fan showing off his power and teaching the bald man and Li Xingning a lesson. She could not help but look at Lin Fan with affection. Qiu Ziqian continued, Huang Ling, do you know that he won the Higher Education Cup in the National Mathematical Modeling Competition today? Higher Education Cup, really? Huang Ling cried out in surprise. Obviously, she had also heard of the Higher Education Cup. That was definitely something that only top students could dream of achieving. A legendary prodigy was actually standing in front of her. How could it be fake? Qiu Ziqian smiled. By the way, have the clothes I asked you to buy arrived? He asked. Why yes, they're here. Huang Ling lowered her head and whispered. She thought of those clothes and her face instantly turned red. Qiu Ziqian laughed. That's good, I'll change into that set of clothes tonight to celebrate my darling winning the Higher Education Cup. Hearing this, Huang Ling buried her little head into her collar looking like a little ostrich. She was extremely cute. It was night time. There was no sleep in Yaqi City, room 2501. The next day, Lin Fan drove his Lamborghini and sped toward Jiangbei University. When he arrived at a traffic light, bang! A white Porsche Cayenne suddenly crashed into him. Then a beautiful woman walked over. She had long hair, delicate facial features, and a white dress that accentuated her perfect body. She was mature and full of charm. Lin Fan compared her to Han Tian in his heart. Their figures were similar, but her facial features were even better. At the same time, Lin Fan could not help but use his eyes of truth. Face value 95. Favorability 70. Seeing this, Lin Fan's face was filled with a weird expression. Her face value was 95, which was within his expectations. However, a favorable impression of 70. What was going on? She had hit his car, but he had not made his stand clear. Logically speaking, there should not be such a high favorability, right? As the beautiful lady got closer, a familiar scent drifted to Lin Fan's nose. The beauty said in a magnetic tone, "It's my fault, don't worry, I'll definitely compensate you. Also, to express my apology for the car accident, let me treat you to a meal," she added after a pause. Lin Fan was about to reply. At this moment, a clear voice rang out in his mind. New mission, feasting on women. Treat 5 beauties with a score of 90 or more points to a meal worth more than 100,000 yuan each time. Reward, 5 silver packets. Progress, 0.5. Mission. Another mission. After opening the silver packets a few times, Lin Fan was filled with anticipation. Lin Fan's eyes flickered as he said, "How can I let a beauty treat me? I should be the one treating the beauty to a meal." The beauty took 2 steps forward and let out a sweet breath. She smiled and said, "I didn't know that you're an expert in love, I like it." The rear-end collision was not serious this time. In fact, Lin Fan's Lamborghini did not even have a single scratch on it. It was like the 2 cars were just gently hugging each other. Under Lin Fan's lead, the 2 of them quickly arrived at Star located in the center of Jiangbei. This restaurant had the most luxurious ingredients and the best chefs. The food was excellent. Correspondingly, the price was also extremely high. Star, the beauty asked, "You're really generous." Obviously, she had heard of the name Star. Lin Fan smiled, "This place shouldn't be a problem for you, right? I've never been here for a meal, this is my first time." The beautiful lady looked at Lin Fan pitifully. It was as though Lin Fan had done something to her. Was he being teased? "Let's go in first," Lin Fan coughed out gently. When the 2 of them walked into the restaurant, the crisp sound of a bell ringing echoed in their ears. Then a tall waitress came up to them. "Welcome to Star. Do you have an appointment?" the waitress asked. No, Lin Fan shook his head. The waitress looked at the tablet in her hand and said, "Then I guess you can only sit near the edge." Lin Fan turned around and looked at the beautiful lady beside him. "It's the same no matter where we eat," the beauty said. "This way please," the waitress said. Soon the 2 of them were arranged to sit at the back. "I don't think I've introduced myself yet. My name is Zia Yan," the beautiful lady said. Zia. At this moment, Lin Fan finally remembered why he felt that Zia Yan's scent was a little familiar. That was because Zia Bing and Zia Zhu had almost the same smell. If it were in the past, Lin Fan might not have been able to tell. However, now that he had perfume expert, he could easily remember and distinguish different smells. Lin Fan had seen Zia Bing and Zia Zhu a few times and smelled their scent many times. Naturally, he would not forget it. In fact, it was this familiar smell that made Lin Fan want to treat Zia Yan. They both had the same surname and the same taste. Could they be? Lin Fan could not help but start to size Zia Yan up. Her facial features were different from Zhe Bing's and Zhe Zhe's. She was filled with a mature aura while the girls were as cute as dolls. However, their figures were all perfect. At that moment, Lun Fan was already starting to suspect if his car getting hit was a coincidence. Just as Lun Fan was feeling puzzled, sweet caviar was served while emitting white smoke. The three different types of caviar, yellow, gray, and green, formed a beautiful rainbow platter. Even though Zhe Yan had eaten many delicacies before, her beautiful eyes still lit up slightly when the caviar entered her mouth. Crisp, soft, tender, and smooth. It was an incomparable enjoyment. At this moment, 2 glasses of whiskey were placed in front of them. Cheers, Lun Fan said. Cheers, Zhe Yan added. After she finished speaking, she took a big gulp and praised, "It's good." As for Lun Fan, he first swirled the glass. Then he slowly poured it into his mouth. His actions were gentle and slow, and he savored the taste carefully. Seeing this, Zhe Yan, who was sitting opposite him, was a little stunned. Although Lun Fan did not comment on the whiskey, his expression and actions seemed to be able to speak. He was noble, free, and charming. Drinking gentleman had infinite charm. At this moment the fish was served. Zhe Yan retracted her gaze and quickly picked up a piece of fish as if she was trying to avoid him. It melted in her mouth and was extremely fragrant. Zhe Yan nodded again. After that it was pine velvet, foie gras, and beef. The portion of each dish was not big, but the taste was excellent, making people feel like they were on top of the clouds. After a moment, Zhe Yan wiped her cherry-like lips and said, "I'm so full." Lun Fan did a quick calculation of the price. After confirming that it was over 100,000, he said, "Waiter, bill please." "Hello, with the 10% service charge, the total is 122,000 yuan, the waitress said. Lun Fan took out his bank card. Beep. After a light sound, the purchase was successful. Then Lun Fan looked at the mission. The mission, feasting on women, treat 5 beauties with a score of 90 or more points to a meal worth more than 100,000 yuan each time. Reward, 5 silver packets. Progress, 1-5. Seeing this, Lun Fan's lips curled. Zhe Yan, who was sitting opposite him, clicked her tongue and said, 120,000 yuan for a meal. I've really been extravagant today. At this moment, Zhe Yan's cell phone rang with a light ringtone. All right, I'm coming over now. After Zhe Yan hung up the phone, she said to Lun Fan, "Do you need me to take your car to a workshop?" Lun Fan shook his head. "There's no damage, why would I need to go to a workshop? Then we'll keep in touch in the future." Zhe Yan shook her phone and added him on WeChat, then she got into her push and drove away. Lun Fan rubbed his stomach and turned around to head toward Yika City. He had just eaten 120,000 yuan worth of food. However, there was only a little bit of each dish and he was not full at all. Lun Fan was prepared to pick up Ke Zukaoan and Huang Ling to eat again. Firstly, it was to complete his mission. Secondly, it was to fill his stomach. However, before he could return to Yika City, he met the manager of Luanjia, Han Tian, on the way. Lun Fan parked his car at the side. "Mr. Lun," Han Tian said in surprise. "Manager Han, what a coincidence," Lun Fan said. "Are you bringing people to look at houses?" "Yes, the client just left a while ago," Han Tian said. "Manager Han, you haven't eaten yet, have you?" Lun Fan asked. "Why don't we have a meal together?" "Eating with Mr. Lun." When Han Tian heard this, her heart started to beat faster. "Sure," she blurted out. Thus Lun Fan drove Han Tian back to Star. After walking through the restaurant's door, the familiar soft sound of a bell rippled slightly. Then the waitress quickly came up to them. However, when she saw Lun Fan, she was stunned for a moment. Did he not just come to have lunch? Could it be that he had left something behind? Thinking of this, the waitress was about to ask. Lun Fan saw that the waitress was in a daze and thought that there were no more available tables. "We don't have a reservation," he said. are there no available tables now? Didn't you leave something behind? Then the waitress noticed that Han Tian, who was standing next to Lun Fan, was not the woman who was with Lun Fan before. A word immediately appeared in her mind. Player. After a while, the waitress finally reacted and said, "Oh, there's still some space. This way, please." Then Lun Fan was brought to the table where he had just had lunch with Ziyin.